I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order and ask our city clerk for roll call, please.
Mayor Sanchez.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Keim. Councilmember Joyce. Councilmember Robinson.
Here.
And Councilmember Weiss.
Thank you. Please rise for the invocation. This evening, we have Michael Aplikowski, COO and co-founder of Convicted for Christ Ministries and minister.
I'm not
Long
quite
title.
a minister, thank you. I always say a prayer for myself before I start, and it goes something like, God, please don't let me mess this up. And first, I'd like to take a moment, quiet our hearts and our minds, and to come together in that moment. I'd like to invite the presence and the spirit and the power of love to come over us, to share this space with us. I'd like our hearts and minds to be heard in this moment, in this place of silence. Let us come together in a spirit of unity. Let us envision ourselves coming together side by side as we move forward to serve this community and its people, the people that we've been entrusted to be stewards. I pray that we do not allow ourselves to be divided through our diversities, but rather to see our diversities as special giftings coming from one spirit. I pray that we see ourselves as unique pieces of a puzzle, and by themselves are all unique shapes and sizes, but when joined together, they create what they were intended to be. I pray for our leaders that they be given wisdom and humility. I pray that they lead through service first and foremost. I pray that they do not take a position of us versus them, but rather that they always clearly see a third option, one of finding common ground in which to work from. Let them look across from one another, as well as at those that they serve, and see an image created that is greater than ourselves. I pray that they honor that image with grace, with dignity, and with love. I lift up our first responders, our police people, our fire people, our health professionals. I pray a hedge of protection over those that run towards danger to serve and to protect us. I pray that those they serve see them as created in an image greater than ourselves. I pray and honor. Pray that they honor that image with grace, with dignity, with love. I pray for our educators to be given wisdom and strength in these difficult times. And again, I pray that they are seen by those they serve as created in an image greater than ourselves. That they respect, honor that image, and treat it with grace and dignity. I pray for our business leaders and the businesses in our community. I pray that they prosper, they grow, that they are able to provide opportunity. I pray for those in our community that are less fortunate, who have no place to sleep tonight, that they can call a home. I pray that through humility and gratitude, we are able to understand we are being given an opportunity to learn to love greater and to act with greater compassion through these encounters. I pray that we're able to see past their circumstances and to see them also as created in an image greater than ourselves. I pray that we honor that image with grace, with dignity, and with love. And finally, I ask that as we part from here, that spirit of love, the presence of love that we invited, that we take that with us, and it be part of all our encounters, and it impact the lives of those we meet. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Mike. Please remain standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you. I don't know if you've noticed, we have a new format for our agenda, and I'm still so used to the old one that we've had for like, I don't know, as far as I know, 25 years and beyond. So it's a little more interesting to read. But we do have, at this time, our proclamations and presentations. And tonight we are honoring Jordan Verdine and the Humanity Showers. Come on down. You got Jordan. I saw you, Jordan. Come on down. Okay, I'm like, wait a minute. And I know you told me you had like 10 people that are here. Come on down. Okay, you got a fandom, yes. Well, I'm going to first hand the mic to Councilmember Eric Joyce, who reminded me of your great work. So, Eric.
No, I just wanted to say a couple words. As you all know, Jordan's a really special individual who recognizes first and foremost that everything that we do great is something because we never do anything alone. And he's always bringing folks with him, which of course he's here doing that again today. So I've had the privilege to join Jordan a few times at the work he's doing and see Mike doing the work that he's doing and everyone lifting each other up in the spaces. So I'm really happy to see you here in this space because you all belong here and this is your house and we're happy to honor you in it.
Yes, right? Okay, proclamation in honor of Jordan Verdine and Humanity Showers for outstanding service to the community. Whereas Jordan Verdine, son of a pastor, grew up always giving back to the community through his faith and family, becoming inspired to improve the lives of homeless individuals and families. And whereas Oceanside has always held a special place in Jordan's heart, as it is where he attended Maricosta Community College and where his consistent work with people experiencing homelessness began. And whereas in 2014, Jordan initiated a project to interview 500 individuals experiencing homelessness, which grew to 800 interviewed, with over half conducted in Oceanside. And whereas from these interviews, Jordan discovered those experiencing homelessness had two significant needs: the need to be seen and the need to be clean. Yeah. And whereas Jordan thereafter partnered with local coffee shops, the public library, the Hill Street Country Club, Oceanside Museum of Art, to display photos and stories of people experiencing homelessness, to humanize and provide dignity to those experiencing homelessness with their stories. These stories helped raise funds to build the first shower trailer, creating Humanity Showers. And whereas Humanity Showers launched the first mobile shower in Oceanside in 2018-2019 at Potter's House Church. Since then, Humanity Showers has collaborated with many organizations, including San Diego Rescue Mission, Brother Benno's Foundation, Maricosta Community College with the college kids at the CLC campus, Oceanside Homeless Court, Oceanside Homeless Resource, North County LGBTQ Resource Center, One Kitchen Collaborative, Sunny Street Outreach, Exodus Recovery, Oceanside Hot Team, Lived Experiences, Convicted for Christ Ministries, and many other churches, local businesses, and community members. And whereas since 2019, Humanity Showers has provided over 75,000 showers in Oceanside. And whereas Oceanside has been the foundation of the efforts by Humanity Showers to support and dignify those experiencing homelessness, and Humanity Showers is passionately committed to continuing its work in Oceanside. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Sanchez, on behalf of the City of Oceanside, do hereby proclaim August 7th, 2024, as Jordan Verdine and Humanity Showers Day in the City of Oceanside. with our deepest gratitude for your outstanding service to our Oceanside community. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Humanity Showers. You are all family, I understand. You all feel like family and work as a family. So congratulations and thank you, Jordan, and I'm gonna hand the mic to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all, I would just like to say, give thanks to God, because without him, none of this would be possible. And then thanks to the community of Oceanside. It's just a beautiful place that fostered community and collaboration, and that made Humanity Showers possible. And Oceanside has served as a catalyst to showing other communities what it could look like when people come together to make a difference. There's a lot of people I could thank, and I don't want to name them because I don't want to miss anyone, but I just want to say thank you to the City of Oceanside for allowing us to be able to serve the community, the people experiencing homelessness. And then if I could just say one thing, it would just be whatever you do for others, just do it in love. The world is struggling, people are suffering, and if more people just took the time to sit and be slow to judge, quick to listen, fast to love one another, what our communities could look like, what our world could look like if we started that just here in Oceanside. And so I'm just immensely grateful for the opportunity to be standing here, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Jordan. I'm gonna pass the mic this way and then around so you can at least say your name.
Ren.
Rob.
Lauren Sanders.
Pass it around.
Marcos.
Savannah.
Angelica Monsabayas.
Roger Tucker. Carolyn Gettert. Michael.
Michael?
Chicago Steve.
Jordan.
Yeah, thank you. So I do have one for each of you, you personally, and then also for the Humanity Shower. So thank you. And picture, but listen, they have been doing such great work out there for our Oceanside residents. And it is about dignity. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, next we have Mayor's Business Spotlight, and that is with the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce. We've got Scott Ashton here, and Katie Hayden, who is being honored tonight, from Sunshine Market and Refillery. And you're probably wondering, what is Sunshine Market and Refillery? So how many of you have gone to the Sunshine Market? Okay, cool. So there's one. Here to tell you, everyone needs to stop by there because Sunshine Market and Refillery is your friendly neighborhood, zero waste grocery store founded with one goal in mind, to reduce waste. To that end, they've made it their mission to provide the community with a sustainable source for grocery products and everyday essentials. They sell everything from household cleaners to skincare to non-perishables and more. Anything and everything a typical grocery store sells. And if there's something that you're looking for, they're willing to say, okay, let me see, maybe we can bring that in. A zero-waste grocery store is just a regular grocery store with one small difference: no single-use plastic products are sold. And since every product is sold in bulk, customers can purchase any quantity they'd like. It works simply: bringing your reusable containers, weigh them, fill them, then weigh them again. This way, the weight of your container is deducted and you only pay for what you need. So this is such a wonderful thing to have a sustainable grocery store in Oceanside, and I just want to thank you so much for all this effort. So you're all going to be there, right? You got to stop by her store. So thank you, and I'm so happy to honor you. I'm going to go ahead and give the mic to Scott here. He's going to say a few words too.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to recognize Katie and One thing that you didn't say is she's about to celebrate 1 year of being in business, which is a very exciting milestone. So Katie provides opportunities for our community members to shop sustainably and affordably, but also is a big supporter of the local small business ecosystem by sourcing many of her products from local makers. And she actually makes some of the products in her store by herself. And in addition to having a great selection of products, she does some fun activities for community members like sourdough classes and herb gardening, and also does small business mixers to bring small business owners together for the opportunity to make connections and grow with each other. So it's been a pleasure to get to know you over the past year, and we're excited to see you continue to grow. And just want to let you say a few words too, Katie.
Thank you. I really appreciate everyone being here, and thank you for the recognition. Thank you. I own Sunshine Market and Refillery, a zero-waste grocery store. So you bring in your reusable containers, refill on products, and then you're only paying for that instead of the single-use plastic that would end up in the landfill. We do mixers. We have a kombucha class coming up on the 11th. We have a clothing swap as well on the 17th. It's completely free. You bring clothes that you want to donate, and then you look through the donated clothes and take whatever you think will serve you. And then anything left over will be donated as well. And then we have a recycling and waste reduction class on the 25th. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations on your 1-year anniversary in Oceanside. And now everyone is going to be coming. So there is a plaque here. Yep. So thank you. We'd love to have a picture. Thank you, Katie, for the work. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Okay, I've got one other person. I believe Lynn is here. Lynn from UEI. Okay, come on up to the podium. She's got an announcement to make.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and everyone on the council. We wanted to make sure everyone in the community was aware at UEI College that we are having a free community car day. We have an automotive technician program, and our students are excited to be able to serve the community with this free event by having free inspections. And we're going to have the police department in, and they will provide a complimentary inspection of car seats for child safety. So it's going to be a terrific day. We're starting, it'll be August 28th, which is the last Wednesday of this month, and we're starting at 9 a.m. Mayor Sanchez has cheerfully agreed to kick us off by driving our car through first, and we're very pleased about that. Very excited. So the students will be very excited to serve your car first and get kicked off so that others can, come on in and drive through. And we will have employers there so that if someone really does have something wrong with their car and needs car repair, then we can refer them to a car service company. But we're doing the inspections and the car safety, and we're just delighted to be able to do this for the Oceanside community. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you very much. All right, next is closed session.
I do have flyers, by the way, if anybody wants. We have Spanish and English.
I was wondering, could you put it in the middle? Can someone help her?
I'll leave them up front here.
So we can have the flyer on the overhead?
Perfect.
She'll give it to you afterwards. So again, it's August 28th. 9 to 4, bring your cars. It's a drive-through kind of a thing. And UEI is right there where the Value Fair used to be. Where's Value Fair? It's on the corner of Canyon and Mission. Thank you very much. All right, next is closed session. Mr. Mullen?
Thank you. Council met to discuss the status of negotiations with the Oceanside Marine Safety Employees Association, the Oceanside City Employees Association, and the Western Council of Engineers on item 1. On item 2, council met to discuss the status of litigation involving the national opioid litigation, and item 2B, significant exposure to litigation in the matter of one case. There's no action under the Brown Act to report on items 1 or 2.
Thank you. Next is the consent calendar items. Have any members of the public requested any of them to be pulled? These are items 3 through 12.
We have not had any requests to pull any of the items.
Okay, so there is a motion to approve. Is there a second? All right, there's a motion and second. Please vote. Oh, did anyone else want to pull any items from the consent calendar? Any council members? I see none. Let's vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
All right, so we do not have any general items this evening. Going to go over to mayor and council member items. Item number 17, which is request by Councilmember Joyce and Mayor Sanchez to direct staff to schedule a council workshop on the update to the general plan in the August-September timeframe for status and input direction to staff. Basically, the council hasn't yet met together to look at and discuss what staff has been working on. So I'm going to go ahead and give Councilmember Joyce the floor first.
Sure, just a few comments, I guess, before we hear from our colleagues. The general plan update is the update of most of the municipal planning for the next foreseeable future for the city itself. Some of the plans, including the smart and sustainable corridors, will really remake and kind of guide the hand of what the planning of our city looks like for a long time. It's going to have tremendous impacts on our daily lives. It's going to have impacts on the health, the safety of our communities across the city for decades and decades and decades to come. It's a massive undertaking. Staff has done a lot of outreach on the front end, which I'm very thankful for. When I talk to folks about this, I try to describe it with an analogy. It's like the general plan update is a big cake. And staff went around to the community and said, okay, what's your favorite type of sugar? Let's talk about the best sugar to use in this cake. What's your favorite type of flour? Should we include it? Should it be brown rice flour? Should we go with traditional flour? What do you think about the icing? And they got feedback on all these parts for 4 years. It's an extensive amount of feedback. But then they baked a cake and we're supposed to pass it in one sitting without talking about what the end cake looks like or what ended up going into it or not. It's over 1,000 pages. It's a massive, massive document that has a tremendous weight on our future. And I would like to see us comprehensively take it on and have the conversations about whether or not it meets all of our visions collectively or not. And so that's the reason for asking for it to come back for another, that's my reasoning for asking for another hearing, so that we can have a conversation about the plan as it has been drafted and not about the parts that have fed into it.
Thank you. Councilmember Robinson?
Thank you. So my problem with it, with the workshop idea, and generally I'm not opposed to talking about things, but like you said, 4 years of community outreach, and we can't do a workshop without having more public input. And that's, you know, I think somewhere as a city and for staff, we have to say stop. We've done all the outreach we can do. We've spent 4 years. The city manager put out a email today to us that identified all the, and I don't think this is all inclusive personally, the work that's been done in the outreach. And, you know, we can have discussions at the dais on what you said, how it fits. I would suggest that maybe instead of a workshop where we have to take more public input and we're going to give more direction to staff and never get this thing done, sometime it has to come to us, is that we ask staff to do a general item at a council meeting, give us an update, whether it takes an hour of time or whatever it takes for staff to update us on those things, and then get it to us so we can debate it up here and either pass it or make changes. I just think a workshop just going to drag it out. And I'm not opposed to talking about it, but I am opposed to continually to open it up for more. And we extended the time by a week, and I just don't see the need to continue to do that. So, my thought.
Okay, well, I am very supportive of this. All I'm asking for is one more meeting, basically, or that we have the workshop in November and then bring it back for an actual time to approve it at a different time. I did ask a former city manager, a city, what was his, Mike Blessing, planner. Okay, when was the last time that the city had an update to the general plan? And it's been about 40 years. 40 years. So basically what he said was, there was a general update in 1986. They did a citywide land use element, a big 3-year effort with adoption of land use overhaul from the 1975 version. In 75, all the general plan elements were updated to allow the city to establish a formal redevelopment authority. And I know some people don't even know what redevelopment is because that has been phased out. There were many meetings and a committee of planning commissioners and others. And now we're talking 1975, 1986, when the city was so much smaller. It was maybe 40, 50,000. For the 1986 land use effort, circulation followed closely followed, but the big kahuna was land use element. And then in 1988, we adopted zoning ordinance overhaul of the 1958 original zoning ordinance. So that was effectively a 30 to 40 year kind of thing. What I like to liken it to, maybe compare it to what we have done in the past. For example, the single-use plastic bag ban. I don't know if you all remember that. That was, something that we all wanted to try to find out about. Colleen Foster, city employee, conducted 35 in-person community meetings in 3 months. 35. Another situation is a budget. The budget, every year, very critical. That is probably the most important decision that we make on what services are going to be offered for the following year. Most of them, of course, continuing on, but maybe some changes in that. And certainly we have a workshop for that. And then we have another meeting 2-3 months later to approve it. We have not been able to do that together as a council and a public for the update to the general plan, which is an update that is for the first time in 30, 40 years. So to me, we did get information that there have been 17 in-person meetings, but basically they've been short presentations to, some of them to commissions, 15, 20-minute presentation, no action on them, of course. They couldn't, their comments were not taken down so they can be included in the, the write-ups. And so all we're asking for here is not to continue this ad nauseum, but one more additional meeting, be it that November we have that workshop, and then we bring it back to the council on the council agenda, giving all of us the opportunity to listen to each other. I will tell you that I tried to join a Zoom meeting. And by the way, the meetings on Zoom started during the darkest times of COVID. And not a lot of folks were tuning in for that. I tried joining in on a Zoom, and I used my personal email first, and then I used my city email, and it kept rejecting my registration. So I wasn't able to join it on Zoom, and it was never fixed. So I could not ever join it. And when I submitted that input, what I got was, yeah, that happened to a few people. The other thing is that when you have it on Zoom, you get into these breakout rooms, and none of that, believe it or not, is recorded. And that's where all the discussion happens, and we don't get to hear about it. So I think it would be really, really important for all of us to talk about this, for me to hear from the public. As mayor, I really feel that this is so critical to ensuring that for the next, and I don't know when the next time we're going to update the general plan, but we should be looking at this for 2050. This is still going to be like a livable kind of a document that, and how we've gotten to this place from 30, 40 years, it's been amended and amended and amended with no comprehensive looking at it to say, okay, how does, changing this land use over here change the circulation element? How does converting all this commercial land to housing, how does that change the traffic patterns? This is something that we really, really need to do together, have one really good session, and then bring it back. So I've got a couple more comments before I turn it to the public. How many people do we have signed up on this?
We have 4 people signed up.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Weiss? Okay, Councilmember Robinson?
Thank you. Thanks for the history lesson.
You're welcome.
All of us know that if we do a workshop in 1 month and then think we're going to get it back the next month to actually take action on it, it's not going to happen, because you're going to open it up, you're going to get all this recommendations, there's going to be motions from here to do this, do that, direct staff to do this thing. We'll go into next year before we get to vote on this thing, and I don't want to do that. I think the questions that you just asked, Mayor, can't be answered by the public. They're going to be answered by staff. So we can bring it as a general item. We can ask all our questions, and staff can answer them. I'm just curious, Mr. Brago, or whoever, didn't I hear somewhere there's 2,000 people on the interest list or for this project, or what?
Yeah, Honorable Mayor, council members, yes, there's about 2,000 people on our interested parties list. I will say to the point that you made earlier about this list not being comprehensive, that's correct, because in addition to the items which I forwarded today, of course, there's been probably literally hundreds of one-on-one meetings with individuals in various neighborhoods, kind of ad hoc at their own request, and I know that our project manager has spent quite a bit of time. If I could add one bit of information as well, and I believe I shared this with council earlier today, but just for the public benefit. So we did extend the public comment period on the documents. I think it was actually by an additional 2 weeks. And they were actually, or 3 weeks. I think that in total, they were out for public review for 63 days. We've been busy compiling all the comments that we've received, and we've received comments from about 60 individuals, and we have over 200 pages of written comment that we have to sort through. So we're going to be very busy in the next months responding to all of these comments as we're required to do, and of course, which we need to do to make sure that we haven't missed anything. So we're going to be busy for the next couple months responding to the extensive amount of comments that we've received thus far.
Thank you. And just because I'm processing, I should know this and I don't, but does the general plan, before it comes to us, does it go to any other groups, or does anybody else hear it?
We would take it to the Planning Commission first for their recommendation.
Okay, so they're going to get to deliberate over it. And Mayor, I would just comment that, if you wanted to meet with the public, I congratulate Councilmember Joyce on his community outreach that he did, and I didn't go do it. I don't know how successful it was or how many folks you had show up, but I thought it was a great idea of an outreach. And so individually, you could do that too if you really want to meet with the public. I just don't think that a workshop idea is good for us to move this thing along, so.
Well, I mean, I want to hear from the public, and I want to hear an exchange of ideas, and I want to see if we can actually possibly even tweak the recommendations or maybe improve on the recommendations from staff. And we, as a council, have not met once to talk about this together. So we have 4 people. Can we get to those 4 people?
All right, we have 4 speakers signed up for item number 17. Our first speaker is Christopher Nodine, to be followed by Louis Centani.
Good evening, Mayor Sanchez and esteemed council members. My name is Chris Nodine. I'm a retired naval officer with 25 years of service and currently employed as an engineering project manager. I've been a resident of Oceanside for 15 years, and my wife, Jennifer, is an Oceanside native and a small business owner in town. My neighbors and I live adjacent to the easternmost terminus of the Vista Way Smart and Sustainable Corridors Plan boundary. Proposed changes will have a direct impact on our property, our quality of life, and our children's futures. We have researched the available information on the pending corridor plans and have reached out to the planning department, the city planner, Mayor Sanchez, to engage in discussions and potential minor changes to the existing plan. We have attempted to attend all related meetings and have submitted concerns and requests by the available channels. We are not aware of any changes based on the input or feedback received from the public. As residents, we value the opportunity to provide feedback, recommendations, and proposed changes, as well as listening to constructive feedback and reasoning. We do not believe that portions of the plan are in the best interest of our neighborhood, and most importantly, are negligible to the intent of the proposed corridor plan. Considering this is a monumental change to the future and character of Oceanside, its communities, and its residents, we would very much like to participate in a collaborative workshop to negotiate solutions to our concerns. It's crucial that all concerned residents fully understand the plan and its impacts in plain language. Making changes would be easier and more effective prior to voting on approval as an omnibus package. The process of preparing the city budget is an excellent precedent, as mentioned by Mayor Sanchez, for actively soliciting public input to develop a plan is in the best interest of all residents. Public feedback and discussion has resulted in significant positive changes to the budget. We hope you're open to this request and look forward to collaborating on potential changes to the corridor plan. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you.
Louis Centani, to be followed by Randy Stotland, to be followed by Amber Kay.
Good evening, Mayor Sanchez, esteemed council members. My name is Louis Centani. I'm a professor at San Diego State University. I am a lifelong San Diegan, and I've been in Oceanside now for 3 years. As of last week, I'm a proud homeowner here. So I just
Congratulations.
thank you very much. I'm proud to be here. Forgive my attire. I literally dropped a paintbrush when my neighbors told me that this was going on tonight. I wanted to come and be a part of the meeting. And with regard to the Smart and Sustainable Corridors Plan, ultimately, we just want the opportunity to be involved and to potentially enact changes just on a portion of the plan that does not help accomplish the stated goals for the City of Oceanside and hurts our direct community. The net effect of developing the eastern terminus of the plan will negatively impact the day-to-day lives of more citizens than it will help, many of whom are senior citizens who are not yet aware of the plan. We agree that making transportation and anything sustainable is a vital issue for our world and for Oceanside. We just want to have the opportunity to recommend modifications to a plan that has a lot of promise, but admittedly has a few oversights as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Randy Stotland.
Thank you, Mayor and the Council, for this opportunity to address you tonight. My name is Randy Stotland. I've been living in Oceanside for 12 years. I live at 3305 Boynton Hills Drive with my wife and 46-year-old disabled son. I've been a licensed psychologist for 45 years, and I've attended some meetings here regarding the development of the land adjacent to our home there. And I found out that there's existence of a corridor plan, and that this is going to be a severe impact adjacent to our home. And we've tried for the last several months to get some information how this parcel was included in the corridor plan, what was the rationale for it. We've not been able to get any feedback on that at all. So we think it really would be advisable if we have a chance to find out why this area was included in the corridor plan and to see whether it's really in the best interest of the community or not, because it will severely impact my family. And so I would like a chance to make feedback on that and maybe improve the plan.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Amber Kay?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. My name is Amber K. Neotoa. I'm a resident of Oceanside since '89 in District 4, excuse me, for over 20 years. I'm here tonight to encourage my representative, Peter Weiss, and D2 Rep. Robinson, and D3 Rep. and Deputy Mayor Keim to support the request by Councilmember Joyce and Mayor Sanchez to direct staff to schedule a council workshop update on the general plan, I would say as early as August or September, so that, we can get it done faster and get through it faster. It is unrealistic and unfair to expect the majority of our community to read and understand the nearly 1,000 pages of information. I think I just heard staff say that they only have 60 people who responded via email of nearly 180,000 residents within our community. It is the responsibility of our civic leaders to make sure we as community members are not only given the information, but that we receive the information in a way that makes sense and that we can understand it and are given the information and are able to provide adequate input along the way. A couple of public meetings and input periods is not enough for the community to be informed on a plan that's going to impact us for the next 40 years. Community members live in neighborhoods, drive on streets, send their kids to school, work, retire, and are the life force and blood of our beautiful city. Minimizing our voice is a slap in the face. Don't tell us what is best for us. Allow us to help you inform the city that promotes the growth that is inevitable, but honors the Oceansiders that make Oceanside, Oceanside. Our city is much more than a beach tourist town or a corporate investment hotspot. Oceanside is a community of families, military members, retired vets, teachers, nurses, seniors, and next generation Oceansiders. As I said, some sections of this general plan have not been updated in over 40 years. Asking for one more session after it has been completed, and these are the final notes, is a sign of transparent government. You're letting us know as community members that we can trust you. Let us taste the cake, to use Eric Joyce's analogy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and that is it. Is that correct? Thank you. Back to a council. Councilmember Weiss, you wanted to speak?
Yes, thank you. I have a question for staff. So you said the public comment period just completed, and I heard the mayor say a workshop in November, but the item says August and September. How long do you anticipate it taking to actually complete staff's work to have a completed document?
I did actually consult with developments, the project manager earlier today on that very question, and we're probably about 2 to 3 months out from finishing our response to comments. They're pretty extensive, so it is going to be a while before we actually get the document updated in response to all the comments that have received. A lot of it is very technical because many of those comments were on the environmental impact report, and that requires quite a bit of additional analysis on the part of our environmental consultant.
So, and I'll use the eastern terminus of Vista Way as an example. If there were a change to that, would that drive a update to the technical studies as part of the EIR?
If that property in and of itself was removed from the plan, probably not, but I will just, and I know it's not on the agenda, so I'll keep my comments very brief. The complicating factor with that particular parcel is it's also identified as a housing site within our housing element of the general plan, so that makes it a little bit more nuanced.
So if there were a workshop, would you recommend it happen once staff completes its work?
I would suggest that the workshop be done once we've completed our work and the council has had the opportunity to take a look at all the comments that have been reviewed to date, because many of those comments, you know, obviously, as I mentioned, there's over 200 pages of comments. There's a lot of public comment that we've received, and it would be beneficial, I think, for council to see all the comments that we've received, our responses to those comments before weighing in on it.
All right, thank you.
Could I jump in on one point too, that I haven't seen all the comments, so I don't know if this is a possibility, but to the extent that those comments result in a revision to the environmental impact report, there's a possibility that it might have to be recirculated for public review. So that should be considered in the process.
If it were to be recirculated, what's the time frame for that? I'm presuming if there are more comments, then you have to respond to those comments, and
It would most likely be early 2025.
thank you.
So that date that was given out to the council of November 13th to come to the council, that no longer is in part of the plan?
In light of the extent of comments that were received, I would say that would be a pretty aggressive, ambitious date.
Okay, so when would that, the earliest would be January?
It's very difficult to say right now. I would say the earliest realistically that we could get this to you for public hearing is going to be November. But again, that really is dependent on the extent of additional analysis. If it requires recirculation of the EIR, then as I mentioned earlier, we're looking at early 2025. So I would say best case scenario, November. If we have to recirculate, we're looking early 2025.
So you'd be getting it before the Planning Commission in October?
Best case scenario, yes. But again, it's, and I hate to be vague, but it's very difficult to say at this point, given that we received the public comments period closed on Monday, and we're still going through all the comments that we received, including talking to our consultants in response to those comments, just to get a better understanding of their timeframes to help us turn the material around. So I apologize. I wish I could be a little bit more definitive, but it's still so hot off the press, it's kind of difficult to say.
If we could get it, okay, so we don't have an exact date, but could we give direction to staff to have the workshop and then bring it back to an agenda, have it regularly, normally agendized as a council item for approval?
That would be up to council's direction.
But that is something that could be done.
It could be done.
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Joyce?
So my intent is literally just for that to happen whenever. The date that was adopted was one that we worked out with staff's advice, knowing that we would be taking in a workshop on the current draft, not on the updated draft, because again, it's a massive document, and a lot of the overarching ideas are what we need to have that conversation about together. So just a couple of things. I heard feedback that we'll have motions on changing or updating the plan. I sure as hell hope so. Like, that's what we do. Like, I want to have that conversation with you and in the room together. That's the most important job we have. I can't have that conversation in case the public doesn't know, I can't have that conversation outside of this room because of the Brown Act. There are laws that prevent that. So we have to have this conversation together. I think we would relieve staff of the need to respond to public feedback if we were to hold this first workshop, because this is the chance for the public to give us feedback, and then again, mostly for us to have the conversation together as we now have a draft. The current feedback, which you said is extensive, was 60 days plus of open time where folks were given all of the documents and said to come back. And we did have folks that did provide a lot of feedback, but there are also lots of folks who are not included in that because getting into that large document individually is really challenging. And so having a workshop where folks can digest it, as one of the commenters said, is really important. And then just the idea that we are definitely clearly and obviously having a conversation about timelines, and then the enemy of that is getting it right. And I just want to make sure that we take our time and do it right, because the consequences are massive.
How many pages total? Everything? All
Of the general plan documents themselves, or the comments that we've received?
The plan, including all the studies.
Madam Mayor, esteemed council members, Sergio Madera, city planner. So the work that's gone into the general plan entails thousands and thousands
My
of pages.
time is running down, so would you say 5,000, 10,000?
I can't estimate. It's thousands of pages.
Thousands, okay. Stop my time, please. Thank you. Mr. Keim.
So my concern, I'd rather have public comment and then have staff have a chance to respond to that, because what has happened up here is when we do workshops and someone comes up with an idea that hasn't been vetted, and we are supposed to make a decision and all concur on it up here. I want to hear public comments and then staff's recommendation, if those are feasible, what we need to do. So if that takes more time, but I am very concerned about having a workshop and hearing new ideas from the public the first time and having staff address those while we're talking in our 10 minutes and then trying to incorporate those into our plan. I'd rather have staff responses before we make any decision. This happens often up on the dais, and we're supposed to make a rash decision up here on very limited information. I don't support that. So I'll have one. I just want to make sure it's when we actually get feedback. If people want to send us information, if people want to hold their own workshops, that's fine. Give this stuff to staff, have them respond to it if it's legal, if it's practical, and then, so that way we can make an informed decision.
Well, I still want to have a workshop where I hear everyone out so that we are all talking to each other. So I'd like to make a motion that when it is when all the process is done by staff, ready to go to a workshop, that we indeed have that workshop, but then afterwards set a time, a date at a future date to have it heard by the council on a regular council item agenda. Yeah.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Councilmember Weiss?
No.
All right. Councilmember Joyce?
I just want to address one thing real quick. Bringing it back to staff after public comment is important. Staff, so what happens a lot with policies that we have one-on-one meetings with staff, and it gets our input's taken seriously, but if we have large items that take broad vision and scope, then if we don't have the conversation all together, we're not really implementing a shared vision. We're implementing, it's not open in the public. And so something like this, I think, deserves more than that.
Yeah, it's a bunch of bubbles, everybody in a bubble. Councilmember Weiss?
So I'm going to support the motion, because I do think something this significant deserves more than just 20 minutes sitting here in a council meeting. I think we do need to have a workshop, but I like the idea of not having it until all the staff work is completed, so that we have a comprehensive assessment of what we're doing. So should we make changes, we're narrowing the focus versus just opening up again. So at such a point in time where staff has finished their assessment, I think we should do a workshop and then either do it there or have it come back. But I think the workshop is important.
Okay, Councilmember Robinson?
Just one last point, just to Councilmember Joyce. I agree with you that we need to debate and stuff. And just to be very clear, what I was talking about is to extend the public comment out, not being able to have a finished product that we can then have our discussion and debate about. It's because what are we going to have, a workshop that goes through page by page by page of this entire document? I don't think that's what we're going to do either. So I'll support it, but we definitely need to have something finished to talk about, or nearly finished to talk about. Thank you.
All right, so the motion, do you have the motion, Mr. Navarro? Did you want to repeat it back, or do you want me to?
is, I believe the motion was to have a workshop after staff brings back their recommendations and set a time and date for that workshop.
And to have a,
A general council item on that at a future date after the workshop.
yes.
Yeah.
So that would be 2 meetings. Okay, there's a motion and second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much. We have 5 minutes. How many people wishing to speak on
Well, we
items
do-
not on the agenda?
We do have the advance written request to speak.
And how many people do
We
we
only have
have
2 people on that one.
on the items not on the agenda?
It says 11, but there is one group in there.
Okay,
So,
the group is for 10 minutes.
correct.
Okay, let's start with the individuals. And we'll get to because we have 5 minutes.
Okay. Let me do some things here. And Lynn Mulheron,
And you said 11?
11 with one group incorporated in there. So is Lynn here? Lynn Mulheron?
So how many individuals? Can you tell me that?
Pardon?
How many individual?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Oh, she already spoke. Lynn already spoke.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll go on to the next individual, Christopher Weinold. Please come on down. And then you'd be followed by Dave Keck. Whenever you're ready.
Talking now?
Yeah. You
Oh,
can speak.
thanks a lot. Appreciate you all being here and soliciting feedback from the public. I'm an
Thank you.
Oceanside resident, and I am opposed to the development of a large truck depot and warehouse such as the Eddie Jones project. I understand that's a discretionary project, and it's not yet approved, and I would like the image of Oceanside to be maintained more as a beachside community. I remember the days driving from San Clemente to San Diego. We wouldn't want to get off in Oceanside. It was called names like Ocean Slime and the Combat Zone. I don't want to see it as a truck depot here in Oceanside. I can just imagine the traffic. Semi-trucks, probably be thousands a day if there's 150 truck garages there, trying to get on and off the 5 freeway to the 76. And then also, I would hope that there may be some way to electronically provide feedback to the council and to the city on some of these proposals. If you have something online where we can vote or solicit, you could solicit our feedback on some things electronically. I don't know if you have a website available to do that yet. And I also want to thank Eric Joyce for meeting with us at the Buddy Todd Park there a few weeks ago. That was very much appreciated. And I do hope you'll take the public's consideration into account for these proposals like this Eddie Jones. I don't think that's something that's becoming of the Oceanside image or the Oceanside I'd like to continue being a resident. Thank you for your time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Dave Keck.
Well, first of all, welcome back from your time away away from the city council meetings. You're probably refreshed with that. I want to especially thank Councilmember Joyce for having the town hall meeting with his District 1 during that period of time. It's very nice out there, a good group. As I understand the process, the Eddie Jones mega warehouse is still chugging along. The development was submitted, their answers and mitigation to the public inputs, questions, and issues for the DERI have been submitted. The planning department is now reviewing the developer's input, and when it's complete, the final ERI will be available for a 30-day public review. The project, which includes requests for 2 conditional use permits, will be scheduled for a public hearing with the Public Planning Commission. We are expecting that the results will be appealed to City Council for your consideration. If you approve this project as proposed, you will be approving the 2 conditional use permits. One is a waiver for a maximum of 50,000 square foot per lot, a waiver of the maximum 50,000 square foot structure per lot as the city code now requires, and raising it to 566,905 square feet on the combined 3 lots. That's almost 4 times the current size zoning allows. The second waiver is to raise the limitation of 6 tractor trailers on a given lot at any one time to the potential of 114 with parking stalls and additional 16 trailer stalls. This is over 6 times the current number allowed by our zoning rules. This is a total disgrace, as you were. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Please, approval for the special use commission is totally discretionary on your part. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, it is 6 o'clock. It is the time for our time certain items, the public hearings. And we do have a couple, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on the first one. That is item number 13. Staff and the Police and Fire Commission recommend that the City Council adopt a resolution approving the departments, and it's approving the Oceanside Police Department's annual military equipment use policy and inventory list as required by Assembly Bill 481. I'd like to go ahead and open this public hearing and request disclosures from council members regarding constituent contacts and correspondence.
Staff.
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 Staff only.
Mr. Navarro, do we have any correspondence and or petitions?
We have not had any correspondence on this item.
All right, thank you. We're going to go ahead and begin the presentation with Assistant Police Chief Taurino Valdovinos.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. Torino Valdovinos, Assistant Chief of Police. I'm here tonight to present the annual military equipment report authorizing the city's military equipment use policy. Staff and the Police and Fire Commission recommend that City Council approve the department's annual military equipment inventory list as required by Assembly Bill 481. Now, for background, AB 481 requires all equipment designated as military equipment by the California State Legislature that is possessed by law enforcement agencies to be inventoried. This inventory is provided to the governing body over the law enforcement agency, in our case, City Council, for approval or modification of use. We are required to provide an annual report regarding this equipment to include its purpose and the utilization of that equipment. This is subject to public hearing and approval. Approval is made by resolution. The timeframe for this report covers from May 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Now, before I move forward, with the presentation, I would like to just make it clear that we are not requesting any new equipment. We're not requesting funding for any new equipment. This is simply a report to report our current equipment. And I'd like to start off by reporting that we have made no additional additions to our inventory during this last period. So here are the 6 categories that we report on. The first category, UAS or unmanned aerial systems and robots, armored personnel carriers, command and control vehicles, explosive breaching apparatuses and breaching munitions, specialized firearms, ammunitions less than 50 cal. Number 5, less lethal deployment systems. And number 6, light sounding distraction devices, less lethal munitions, and chemical agents. So for the first category, we have no changes in this section. We still only have 1 robot, which is used to safely search the interior of buildings or structures instead of inserting personnel. We did not have any deployments of this equipment during this period. We currently have 15 various UASs. These are used primarily to provide air support to first responders. We have 7 mini drones that can be used to safely search the interior of buildings and structures. We also have one tethered drone, which can be used for large-scale events. During this period, we had 552 flights. The majority of the flights were in support of calls for service that resulted in UAS systems. Second category, armored personnel carriers. This is the only section where I will report a change, and I'll get to that here shortly. We still only have one rescue vehicle, which you see on your screen now. This vehicle is primarily used during high-risk incidents where an additional level of ballistic protection is necessary. We had 19 deployments of the rescue vehicle. Most were for pre-planned SWAT missions, but it was also used for patrol deployment. We still have one crisis negotiation vehicle, which is the one on my left, the white one. This one is used primarily during incidents where crisis negotiators, are needed to communicate with a suspect or someone suffering from mental crisis. This vehicle was deployed 15 times, predominantly for pre-planned warrants. Now, here's where the change occurred. At the beginning of the year, we negotiated a transfer of ownership of our mobile command vehicle to the fire department. That's the large vehicle on my right. So we currently do not have an MCV. However, on June 26th, you, council, approved the purchase order of a new small MCV. Therefore, we'll be adding a new MCV in the next go-around, so I'd like to just make you aware of that. Category 3, explosive breaching equipment. There's no change in this category. This section includes items and materials commonly used to gain entry into structures or buildings when absolutely necessary. Items included in explosive breaching materials and breaching tools include kinetic breaching devices, 12-gauge munition to defeat deadbolts. We did not have any deployments of these tools during the rating period. Category 4, specialized firearms and ammunition. There was no change in this section. These firearms are necessary for those extreme cases in which no other suitable options are available. Our rifle inventory includes AR-15s used by our SWAT team and issued to about half of our uniformed patrol personnel, MP5s, which are only utilized by our covert rescue team during undercover operations, and our 308 bolt-action rifles used by our SWAT sniper teams. We did not have any discharges involving any of these items during the rating period. Category 5, less lethal deployment systems. No change in this section. This section includes pepper ball launchers, munition launchers, as well as less lethal 12-gauge shotguns. These items are used during high-risk events and are governed by our policy and procedures and our Consolidated Use of Force Manual, Chapter 7. During this period, we had one incident where a pepper ball launcher was used. We had one incident where a 40 millimeter munition was used. And we had 5 incidences where a beanbag was used. All were used during patrol and to neutralize a combative subject. Section 6 is broken up into a few different items, so I'll go through them one by one best I can. It includes the light sound distraction devices, the LSDs. There have been no changes to our inventory in these items. We had 2 instances where LSDs were used. Both were during a SWAT mission. Less lethal munitions and chemical agents. There have been no changes in our inventory for these items. These are additional less lethal munitions. There have been no changes to our inventory of these items either. Lastly, Section 6 includes chemical agents. There have been no changes to our inventory of these items. These items are used as less lethal options and are governed by policy and procedures in our Consolidated Use of Force Manual, Chapter 7. We did not have any uses of chemical agents during this period. Lastly, additional chemical agents. There have been no changes to our inventory of these items. These items are used during high-risk events and are governed by our Policy and Procedures Manual and our Consolidated Use of Force Manual as well, Chapter 7. There were no uses of these chemical agents during this period. And with that, I would like to open it up for any questions.
Thank you very much. Prior to opening up for the public, do any members of the council have any questions? See none? All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to the public. Have any members signed up to speak first?
We did have one member sign up to speak, Jimmy Knott.
Okay, Mr. Knott, and then after that, this is a public hearing. You did not have to sign up to address the council on this item. So if you wish, after Mr. Knott speaks, and he's going to speak for 3 minutes, and you wish to address the council on this item, please approach the podium, state your name, and then you will have up to 3 minutes to speak on this item. Thank you. Mr. Knott?
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. After reading the report, I was surprised at the amount of material that was, quote, zero used. It's like, preparing for inundation of space junk or asteroids that may hit Oceanside. So if we were preparing for things, we could prepare for those. It's the equivalent. Because if you look at the cost and maintenance, maybe we should set aside some cost and maintenance for those areas as well. And we might want to consider for other things that could potentially be used for even other less lethal items. One effective less lethal item was not on that list, and that is nets. Nets have been used throughout history and time, and they have been effective because a person gets tangled up in nets and they're basically trapping themselves. But one thing I wanted to point out that even the officer had pointed out into his presentation, and that is the amount of psychological and social problems that these vehicles, that these materials have been using, and that is for psychosocial needs. I would encourage you to look at that. More training, more time needs to be given to our officers in that area. And also different tools need to be given to our officers instead of being put into these type of armaments. We need to transfer that to the skill sets for our officers. If we want to, if they want to go to Camp Pendleton over there to get these military uses, but for the people of our city, the psychological or social needs are more prevalent. The explosive breaching, if you read one of the things I read, it sounded like a commercial for that weapon. Also, foam and rubber bullets.
Thank you, Mr. Knott.
Horrible.
I'm going to go ahead and turn again to members of the public who are here. If you wish to address this item, please rise, approach the podium. You've got up to 3 minutes to speak on this item. I see no one rising, so I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the public hearing. Assistant Chief Valdovinos, would you like to make any other comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. To the council, Councilmember Weiss.
I have a question. So you transferred the command vehicle to fire?
Yes, sir.
Did they need a fancy RV?
Yes.
Just
they
kidding.
did.
Move approval, staff recommendation.
You don't have to answer that. Yeah. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Councilmember Joyce.
I just had a quick
For
question.
adoption.
And I apologize. I'm trying to think back to last year. Were there a lot more other items on this from last year that are removed? I know nothing was added, but I feel like there was a machine gun that was on the last. I'm sorry, this is going by memory. That I thought that was on last year, and it may not be on.
No, so what I believe Councilman Joyce you're referring to is the MP5 submachine gun.
Okay.
That's probably what you're referring.
I thought there was something that was older than that. I'll look back at last year. I apologize for
not doing that ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. Next item is item number 14. This is staff recommendation that the City Council adopt a resolution upholding Planning Commission Resolution Number 2023-P19, approving a tentative map, development plan, and density bonus to allow the construction of 13 single-family homes with one reserved for very low-income households on a 2-acre parcel located between Loma Alta Drive and Crouch Street, approximately 150 feet south of Walsh Street. I want to go ahead and open this public hearing and request disclosures by council members.
Staff and public, and we lived through this before.
I'll just say ditto, staff, public.
Okay, the both as well. Thank you.
Staff and the public and the applicant last time.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, are there any correspondence and or petitions?
All the correspondence we received have been forwarded to council prior to the meeting.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and get started then with the presentation by Dane Thompson, planner with the City of Oceanside.
Thank you, and good evening, Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. Dane Thompson with the Planning Division, presenting the Loma Alta Terrace project. Staff is recommending that the council adopt a resolution upholding the Planning Commission's decision to approve the project as proposed. The project was originally approved in October and was readily appealed by Link Leduco. This council denied the project unanimously in January, but since staff was recommending approval of the project, no resolution of denial was prepared and no official action took place. Before staff returned with a resolution for denial, the applicant made some modifications in an effort to improve the project. Tonight, staff is recommending approval of the project with the proposed modification. For a short recap, the project represents a request to subdivide a 2-acre lot into 13 lots, each to be developed with a single-family home, one of which would be reserved for very low-income households. This shows how the site would be subdivided, with access coming solely from Loma Alta Drive. The average lot size for the 13 lots would be 5,500 square feet. 11 of the 13 proposed units would be 3-story, 3,200 square foot units with a 3-car garage, and the other 2 would be 2-story, 1,600 square foot homes with a 2-car garage. No rooftop decks are proposed in this development. This table shows the density bonus calculations for the project and how it got to 13 total units. After the January 10th City Council meeting, the applicant made the following changes to the project, and I'll go through all of these one by one. Yeah. I'm going to go through all of these one by one, too. I'll wait a little bit here. The applicant has proposed to add some visual variety to the units as shown here. Previously, each home would be mostly stucco with some accent siding. Now the accent material will be changed for each subsequent unit. For instance, one unit would be stucco with regular siding, as shown there on the top. The next stucco with board and batten siding, and the next shingle siding. And then that would repeat itself throughout the sub. These renderings show just the first option I just spoke about, largely with stucco and horizontal siding. The exposed wood look came directly from addressing a comment from the Planning Commission.
Addressing what again?
A design comment from the Planning.
Thank you.
Here is the proposed side elevation for that same structure. There's only 2 proposed units from Plan B, so one would have regular siding accents like this, and the other would have shingle accents. The second modification entails removing proposed balconies on the lots where the building footprint extended into the rear yard setback. This would affect lots 4, 5, 6, and 11, as shown here. The applicant has changed the heights of the proposed retaining walls, mostly reducing heights. Previously, there were 3 walls that exceeded the 6-foot height maximum, all of which have been modified to 6 feet or less. However, a waiver is still required, as some walls would still exceed the city's 3.5-foot maximum height for retaining walls in the front. 11 of the 13 units, Plan A, are proposed to be 30.5-foot tall structures. Because most structures are proposed on elevated pads through the use of retaining walls, some were technically over the height limit of the REB district when you add the structure height to the retaining height. With shorter retaining walls, a waiver for building height is no longer necessary. The zoning code requires that garages be set back 20 feet from a property line to ensure adequate space to park a vehicle. The proposed project previously requested a waiver for this standard regarding lots 4, 5, and 6. Each of the structures were shifted slightly to the rear with no changes to the floor plan, meaning that the rear setbacks for each of the subject lots were reduced further. A waiver for a minimum driveway length is no longer necessary. According to the general plan, cul-de-sac turnarounds should not exceed 5% grade, and previously the project included a turnaround with approximately 15% grade. The applicant is now proposing additional earthwork to lower the building pads beyond cul-de-sac, allowing for a shallower turnaround slope. This modification would also reduce visual impacts to the community by lowering the building pads abutting Crouch Street at the top of the project site to approximately 8 to 10 feet below street level. The engineering design manual limits allowable private driveway grades to 18%. With the additional earthwork previously discussed, the project would have shallower driveway grades that meet the design manual standards. This table shows the changes made since the last meeting regarding density bonus waivers. The project is no longer needing to request waivers for maximum building height, minimum driveway length, and retaining wall height in side and rear yards. The project is proposing a 16% grade private street, which is steeper than usual, but nonetheless allowed by the engineering design manual with written approval of the city engineer. The absolute maximum street grade is 18%. The manual requires that steeper streets be constructed to a higher standard than the typical street. As you can see here, it would come out to about 3 times as thick as a normal local street. The project would also have to comply with all applicable conditions of approval, including that if any part of the roadway exceeds 16% grade, those sections not in compliance would need to be rebuilt at the developer's expense. The subject matter experts in the engineering division, the fire department, and the solid waste division reviewed the request and considered the proposed private street adequate and compliant with all relevant codes and design standards. Staff does not believe the 16% proposed street grade would constitute a specific adverse impact as defined by the Housing Accountability Act, which is a significant, quantifiable, direct, and unavoidable impact based on objective, identified, written public health or safety standards. While still maintaining allowances afforded under density bonus law necessary to construct the project at its proposed density, the applicant has made a good faith effort to address the issues raised before the City Council, including reducing visual intrusion to the neighborhood, adding visual variety to the project, and affording greater privacy to surrounding residents. Staff finds that the revised project represents a significant improvement to the project brought before the council in January. With that, staff recommends that the council adopt a resolution affirming Planning Commission Resolution 2023-P19, approving the project as proposed.
Thank you very much. Before we go to the public, are there any questions by council members? Right, my apologies. First is the appellant. And this is a time for first the appellant and then to hear from the applicant. The appellants, do you wish to make comments? You have up to 20 minutes. And you can reserve rebuttal if you wish of those 20 minutes.
Good morning, everyone, or good evening, everyone. We weren't surprised when we got word that this matter wasn't even over after the January the 10th city meeting. We anticipated that all hell was going to break loose, and it did. Let me revisit some of the revelations that surfaced at the end of the January 10th meeting. First, Council Member Mr. Keim commented about the extraordinary number of waivers of development standards granted by the Planning Department. Second, Council Members Mr. Joyce and Mayor Ms. Sanchez commented about Mr. Darnell's plan to rent rather than sell the so-called affordable unit. That was a deviation of the Planning Department's very own Condition 103 that states the unit had to be for sale. Third, Mayor Ms. Sanchez commented about the concession given by the Planning Department not to require the developer to bury the overhead power lines that run along the entire, I believe it's the eastern boundary of the property, thereby putting the financial onus on the city. Fourth, Councilmember Mr. Robinson seemed perplexed that the city planners and traffic department could not fully answer his concern regarding possible traffic calming measures on Loma Alta Drive. Fifth, Councilmember Mr. Weiss, in a Perry Mason moment, got the city engineer to disclose that the grade of the private cul-de-sac road exceeded the existing standard by 4%. But true to form, the Planning Department just recently fixed that problem by granting another waiver. I don't fault Mr. Darnell, the developer of this proposed project. He's in the business to make money. That's just plain old capitalism at its finest. That's expected. Mr. Darnell didn't grant the waiver. It was our own Planning Department that granted the waivers, concessions, and reductions of safety standards. We are aware that the city and the Planning Department has been the recipient of threats of litigation from the developer and intimidation from Sacramento because of the city's decision to grant our appeal. Rather than relying on threats and intimidation, we prefer to stick to the facts and the law. At the last meeting, I discussed what I've referred to as 6 magnifying factors, detailing why this project, as proposed, was a fire safety concern due to the combination of our local environmental conditions and climate, combined with the proposed development plan for the project. In the interest of time, let me try to summarize those concerns in a couple of sentences. what we have here is 13 wooden towers crammed into a sloping 2-acre lot, with some towers higher than 30 feet, and most of which are only 8 feet apart, surrounded on all 4 sides by a planned 5 or 6 foot wall, with overhead power lines bordering the entire eastern side, and with only one very hazardous steep grade access road in a dry climate with nearby dry vegetation and seasonal hot and dry strong winds, with a history of wildfires and water supply issues. Access to the project is from Loma Alta Drive, a winding public road with a 5-degree grade all the way from Canyon Drive to the project, and then turns on into a private cul-de-sac road with a 16-degree grade, and then onto private driveways, some of which are planned at 18-degree grade. What could possibly go wrong? One of our neighbors said it best, and I quote, "I don't want to live there, but it's going to make a heck of a skateboard park." If you only listen to one thing tonight about my remarks, I hope you consider these following 4 words. Public safety is non-negotiable. Let me repeat that. Public safety is non-negotiable. I always thought public safety was sacrosanct. We don't put public safety on the bargaining table, or do we? Isn't that the ultimate issue here? Have we really become that cavalier? I recommend you put that forward maxim. Public safety is non-negotiable on a sign over every doorway of every department in the city and on city letterhead. Failure to protect public safety is not only a violation of the sacred duty of every branch and division of government, but also a violation of the density bonus law itself. That's right, granting waivers of development safety standards that to protect the public is actually a violation of the density bonus law. If the developer selects to use the density bonus law, then the planning department and the city need to apply the entire law. Without getting into the legal weeds, the density bonus law expressly provides in Government Code 65915, subdivision, and let me get this right, small d, paragraph 1b, and small e, paragraph 1, that local government is not required to waive or reduce development standards or grant concessions or incentives if the city finds, based upon substantial evidence, that doing so would have a specific adverse impact upon public health or safety, and for which there is no feasible method to mitigate or avoid the specific adverse impact. Your city attorney is here tonight, Mr. Mullen. I'm sure he has briefed you on those code sections in case law. All of the evidence of a specific adverse impact in this matter is in plain sight and documented in the developer's maps and plans, and the planning department's charts, engineering reports, resolutions, and by an actual inspection of the property, as well as by recent historical fact and common knowledge. What could be more specific, more adverse, and more impactful than a catastrophic fire. There are two things you need to know about a fire. Number one is you don't want to be in one. And number two is if you are in one, you want to quickly and safely get the heck out of there. How can people safely and quickly evacuate from a development if there's a fire when it's completely surrounded by a high wall, overhead power lines on one side, with one hazardous road in and out? What if circumstances block traffic? What are the contingency plans for worst-case scenarios? Just imagine this. Parked cars along Loma Alta Drive near the development. Emergency vehicles rushing to the scene. Residents loading their kids in the car trying to evacuate. And maybe a parent or two rushing home to get their loved ones to safety. What about disabled and elderly folks? Everyone's trying to navigate the steep grades at once. It would be a train wreck. There are a number of VIPs that couldn't make it here tonight. I don't know their names or even where they're from. I'm referring to the families that may choose to live there if you approve this development. What do you tell those families when they get the keys to their new home? Sorry, we had to eliminate a dozen or so safety standards in order to build your home, but don't worry, good luck and have a nice day. It's not too late to properly mitigate these risks by, at a minimum, expanding the space between the homes, reducing the height of the homes, burying the overhead power lines, and adding a second vehicle access point. What do you tell those that insist upon veiled threat, intimidation, and pressure tactics? What you tell them is that you're adhering to and applying all of the provisions of the density bonus law. You tell them that public safety is non-negotiable here in Oceanside. If that requires litigation, then so be it. Consider that an opportunity to show everyone that public safety is worth protecting. By the way, speaking of legal issues, if you're concerned about litigation, just imagine what would happen if any of the residents of this project are victims of a disaster caused by and or exacerbated by waivers of safety standards. So at that point, I'd like to conclude and save the rest of my time for later.
All right, thank you. You've got you have 7 minutes, 56 seconds. All right, now's the time to hear from the applicant. And you have 20 minutes.
Thank you, council members, for your time. Keep this brief. It's obviously generally ends up to be a long night. This project would bring new families and new housing stock into the city of Oceanside, and they would not have previously had that opportunity. Scott Darnell, Loma Alta Terrace's applicant. Housing is a human right, and this project is no different. We are proposing to increase Oceanside's housing supply by 13 lots. The project would have had a density of 19 lots if the maximum density were proposed. We're proposing 60% less, obviously, than the available maximum density. We're creating an affordable unit that would allow a family to live in a modern home that absolutely would not have had that chance before. This is a well thought out project. It has garnered tons of local support. I have letters, calls, support. We've got 27 letters of support, a letter of support from the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce, which represents a ton of the businesses here that complain constantly about affordable housing for their staff, et cetera, customers. Again, this is a well-thought-out project, and we hope that you can, find it in your hearts to approve it. I'll walk through a couple slides here quickly. Dane did a great job talking about the salient facts of the project. We made a bunch of modifications on hearing some of the concerns of the neighbors, and in terms of having continual collaboration with the city's engineering department, planning department, we made those detailed changes, which Dane has already addressed, so I won't go through them one by one. We had a couple of charrettes with the neighbors and the community, which there were some photos shown and visual examples, which I just flashing on the screen again in case they come up. But we had a design charrette in terms of selecting the schemes, and then led that towards doing these kind of finer tune renderings with the wood trim that was suggested during the Planning Commission approval. So I can click through these quickly. Dane obviously showed them already, but happy to take any questions as needed. I'm going to stay up here or sit back down.
Are you done with your presentation?
Yes, complete.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so now is the time for the public. Do we have any written requests to speak at this time?
Yes, we do. We have about 8 speakers.
Okay, all right. We will go ahead and call those first, and then afterwards invite others who you did not have to turn in a slip or sign up to speak on this item. You actually, at a public hearing, can speak, approach the podium, state your name, and then speak for 3 minutes. First, we have Glenda Kimbrell. Ms. Kimbrell. And this is for 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Glenda Kimbrell. My husband, Pat, and I live and own property at 142 and 146 Loma Alta Drive. I stand before you very frustrated with this developer and what he is pushing down our throats, hiding behind the density bonus law and the threat to sue the city. The greed of this developer is astonishing. 13 huge homes squished into tiny lots, out of character totally with the neighborhood, steep grades, minimum landscape, numerous retaining walls, all of which are granted because of one proposed very low-income home. This development, as stated by the Planning Commission, the Planning Department, and the City Council, is very, very poorly designed. The developer has heard from the neighbors, the Planning Commission, and the City Council that there's plenty of rational reason to reject this project because of our existing codes. So, Mr. Darnell, go back and redesign it. Go back and put in a reasonable number of homes. Go back and make this project a respectable housing development. Go back and have some respect for the City of Oceanside and the current and future residents of Loma Alta. Go back and design and build these homes to comply with our city's safety and building codes. Then you would have no pushback from any of us. But because of your greed, you have asked for countless waivers to make this project very undesirable, squeezing 13 homes into this beautiful parcel of land. We should not ignore our building codes and standards as this development has done. The developer is hiding behind the density bonus law and the California Department of Housing and Community Development with threats to sue the city if we don't acquiesce. And they have done this. But is this the right thing to do? Is this the way the developer wants to work with the city to get their project done? Is the reputation they want to leave behind, is this the reputation that you want to leave behind after all is said and done? I claim all of this is done by the developer because of greed, and I could be wrong. We all want to make money, but should it be at the sake of reputation? Redesign the development so that there is not the intense pushback or the ire from the city or the residents of Loma Alta. Walk away from this project with a sense of pride and satisfaction, not that you have been able to squeeze 13 homes or that you sued the city, but with a project that you would be proud to live in, be proud to say you built, and that you have made a pathway for a cordial relationship with the City of Oceanside for future developments.
Thank you. Audrey Thornton, followed by Kathy Dubé, and then Pedro Tavares. We do have 2 podiums if you'd like to approach the podiums. Next person after Audrey is Kathy, is it Dubé? Dubé. You can come up to the other podium if you'd like. Okay, Ms. Thornton?
Good evening. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Deputy Mayor and council members. My name is Audrey Thornton. I live just up the street from this proposed project. I think I spoke last time. We had a meeting about this, and it's still as bad as it was before. And I'm really disappointed that the council is thinking about approving it without getting some major concessions from the developer. I feel like there's a very good reason to deny this project, other than the density restrictions and the safety reasons. It's not going to provide affordable housing for Oceanside. The changes that the developer has agreed to make up to today have not changed the fact that he's going to sell 12 houses for over $1 million and keep 1 to rent out. It's creating a density of 13 houses on a lot, on a parcel zoned for 9. So at this point, we're not fighting the new state housing mandates. We are objecting to Mr. Darnell's using them to line his pockets without regards to the residents of Oceanside. I beg you not to capitulate to the arrogance, the bold-faced, unapologetic arrogance of this developer to use these new zoning laws, which I am in favor of putting in low-income housing. I wish there was more. I wish my daughter could come move here. She lives in Baltimore. She can't. She can't afford a house. But they're using these density the density bonus zoning law, which is designed to help people find affordable low-income housing. He's using it to allow them to game the system and squeeze 13 houses onto this the lot that's zoned for 9 houses. Without providing 1 house, it's going to be a solution to the low-income housing problem. Invoking this exemption, the density bonus law, is just promoting low-income housing, which is a lie. I feel like the council has an obligation to the residents of Oceanside who live in this neighborhood and to the many residents who are being forced out because they can't find affordable housing. I don't feel like the council has an obligation to Mr. Darnell. Mr. Darnell is the sole owner of Loma Alta Terraces, LLC. He runs a private equity investment firm, Darnell Capital Management. He calls it on his website a boutique real estate investment firm. Yeah, he's in this to make money and to get out. He has no concern for the residents who live here. He's no concern for bringing more families into Oceanside.
Thank you.
I beg you to deny this. It's not a housing solution.
Thank you very much. Kathy Dubé. I said it right that time.
Kathy Dubé
next,
or Kathy
after her,
Dubé.
after Ms. Dubé is Pedro Tavares. If you can,
Thank you
make
all
your way
for
to the-
listening to us again. Our pleas, our cry for help feels a lot like deja vu because we were here not long ago and we've been here several times. It's my backyard. It's all of our backyards. Our lifestyle is going to change tremendously. I think I voiced before, even if it's legal, is it really what we should do for the families that live in that community, for the people who have been there for 25 years, for the people who have quarter of an acre, half an acre, 2 acres, is just going to change the landscape and our quality of life immensely. So please consider the minute changes that have been made. Structurally, it's just a lot of homes in a small area, a lot behind our lot, a lot that we look out every day. And I know life is all about changes, but I'd like them to be for the good. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Pedro Tavares, followed by James Burnett.
Hi, my name is Pedro Tavares, and I'm an architect. I work all over the county, and I'm here in support of housing, of which there is none. All housing is good housing. All housing helps alleviate demand, and these 13 houses are no different. If you look online, you can see that only 5 homes have sold a stone's throw from this property in the last 5 years, or sorry, 3 years at least. There is no housing. I actually just got done building my family a home in Encinitas, and I got to do that because I understand I'm a lucky white guy. And my house build was opposed by my lucky white guy neighbor, and it's just a single family home and an ADU and a little space I'm gonna Airbnb. He really doesn't like that. And right behind my home is a development of a 250-unit apartment building that just broke ground. And it was opposed by all my lucky white guy neighbors. And they made all the same complaints. They get them from the NIMBY handbook. It starts with traffic. This is only 13 homes. And the second's always fire. And it's possible. A wildfire could ravage this area, it could ravage all of the areas we live in. But if it does, when it does, these 13 homes will be the only things left standing, with their sprinkler systems, their modern construction, their uncombustible siding. And the third is always neighborhood character, meaning these lucky white guys don't think anyone should be as lucky as them. And if you think 13 lucky white guy homes is too much, you can throw this project back at the developer, because everything coming down from the state and on the governor's desk right now is aiming to make sure that he could build a whole lot more than 13 homes on 2 acres in North County Coastal. You should be begging him to build these 13 homes. Give him more time, and the next proposal is going to be a 250-unit apartment building. And it's going to have some units set aside for lucky brown guys and lucky black guys.
I'm sorry, sir, did you say you live in Encinitas?
Yes.
Okay, just, thank you. James Burnett, followed by Link Ladutko. Sorry.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Mr. Joyce, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I appreciate your time. I think that some of my neighbors have said things that I can't say any better. I can only commend them for taking the time and energy to put in to this, because it's a laborsome process. And we have been fighting with this process for 2 years now or more, and some of the communications between the neighborhood and the developer haven't been very smooth. As I believe it was Mr. Morsi who said that some of the, at the beginning, were the comments were disingenuous at best, the misrepresentation of what was being built. So if this matter goes forward, I'd like to ask that the developer provide a 3D model so that we could actually see, not some picture that's been edited to make something look different than what's really going to be there. The street of Loma Alta is very narrow and winding, and just recently, last month, it was closed because, well, there was police and fire, and you couldn't go either side down into the 200 block. So it was completely blocked. And any of you that drive that will know how narrow it is, that the traffic is completely no parking on the eastern side. That's because the street is very narrow and winding. It's very easy to come around the corner and meet another car. But that's only part of the safety that's already there. Adding 13 more houses with additional dwelling complexes or low income, which really was a topic of dissent last time. I believe we got into the discussion of were these low-income housing units, were they for rent or were they for ownership, which was obviously something we were misled about. But safety is very paramount for our city, and it's already a congested area. I can only hope that the City Council will put this behind us. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Kenner, followed by Richard Newton.
Good evening. I'd like to find out, by a show of hands, who
is in favor of this project? One, two,
That's a question
three.
to the audience.
I'm sorry?
That's a question, you're asking that question to the audience, correct?
Yeah, but maybe you guys could
We
jump
have to
in
wait
there
until
too.
we have to wait until we hear all of the.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
So who's against? Yeah. Looks like a number of people don't care for this project. It really impacts the neighborhood in a bad way. So I just want to throw in my 2 cents. I think the little tweaks they've done for this proposal are minimal. They really don't really do much, but, you know, change the color or, you know, whatever it is. But it's going to be a lot of new people, which is okay. A lot of cars, a lot of kids, skateboards, whatever. And I just think it's part and parcel bad for the neighbor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor. Mr. Newton?
Mayor Sanchez, members of the council and the public, I'd just like to correct what Mr. Darnell said. He made a statement that housing is a human right, and I would like to correct him on that. Housing is not a human right. It is a commodity that is bought and sold and has to be paid for. If he truly felt it was a human right, he would give these properties away and donate them to human beings who could live there. He is selling them for profit. Now, I'm not attacking this particular development, and I have no problem with capitalism and profits. I think that's a good thing. That's made our society much better and much more prosperous. But there's a liberal talking point that housing is a human right. The only human right we have is to breathe free air. The U.S. Constitution says we have the right to pursue happiness. It doesn't say we have the right to happiness. That would include housing, food, everything else. Those all need to be paid for by somebody. And if housing is a human right, and let's say the developer says he doesn't want to underwrite that, then he's passing the buck to the taxpayers or others to shoulder that and absorb those costs to house those people. There's always a burden. Everybody has to pull their own load to choose where they live. Housing is not a human right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. All right. All right. If you wish to address the council on this item, please rise, approach one of the podiums, and you have up to 3 minutes to speak. Please identify yourself for the record and then start talking. Mr. Knott?
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. One thing I did not see in the staff's presentation or both the applicant and the persons that was representing the developer, and that was the potential future use of the land once the people buy it. And that is potential ADUs. I don't see where there's enough land there to build an ADU unless they want to compromise maybe the driving space or parking space and put up one there. My suggestion would be to put a condition of prohibition of an ADU into any development of any housing in that area, because it looks like they're taking an ADU and developing them into a tower home. And, you know, it's a strange way of doing it, but it's comparable. But I think that we better start looking at things and doing comparative analysis and having staff looking at potential things like that, because I could see in the future people coming back to the city saying, you know, this is my property. I want to put an ADU in there. And they come in with a plan that really looks odd. And with the state laws as they are, what recourse will we have? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item, please approach the podium, state your name, and you've got 3 minutes.
My name is Jim Garrison. I've lived on Loma Alta Drive since 1995. the area that the developers are wishing to make the egress and the in and out on that cul-de-sac, the road is 28 feet wide. You put the car on either side, that leaves 14 feet for cars to go up and down the hill. It absolutely will not work. Absolutely will not function. You couldn't put a 3/4-ton truck through there, let alone fire and safety.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Bravo?
Hi, thank you. My name's Wendy Bravo, and I'm a resident of the City of Oceanside. I'm sorry for how disgruntled this community is that has to deal with this particular design. I didn't even get a chance to see it. This is the first I've heard of it, and was very disappointed in what's supposed to be due process here, in that there should have been afforded some time to actually look at the PowerPoint without speeding through it so quickly that you can't come to any opinion at all or a comment, except to hear the deep concerns about public safety. I'm not so sure it's, this is a free country. I'm not going to pontificate on what's a human right regarding housing, but as a devout Catholic, I can tell you that Jesus Christ would definitely depart from that opinion, and so my remarks are concluded. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
Good evening. My name is Jordan Crone. I'm at 140 Loma Alta, and I just want to express my perspective as a new homeowner in the area, kind of to rebuttal the previous person speaking. I know the housing crisis firsthand. My age group, it took me a long time. I couldn't afford the city that I grew up in, a few towns south of us. I found this street in Oceanside, which I absolutely loved. I fell in love with the neighborhood. And it was really, I fell in love with the neighborhood even more than I fell in love with the house itself. I just want to express that it's a feel of a place. It's an aesthetic. It's a lot more than just dollars and cents. That's what makes me proud to feel like a North County born and raised, somebody who can represent this area. I see the change, and I understand change has to happen. But I also believe that we can work within a balance. We need housing, but we need to ask ourselves at what expenses is happening. And you can't ruin old neighborhoods like this. It's just, I see it happening, and it's just not good. I just urge you to take into consideration what the entire neighborhood is telling you. And I understand that there's, laws coming down from the state, but I think this is a fight worth fighting until maybe we can get better elected officials in office. But I just urge you to just consider the feeling that you get from the neighborhoods and the people here. I mean, I'm up here with nothing prepared. It's just passion from my heart. And I really just feel like I want to be in support of my neighborhood here. As a new homeowner, and most of the people that I'm here with, I've been here for years and years and years. But this is my perspective, and I understand there's a housing crisis, but this isn't solving it. This over $1 million, I mean, it's just, it sounds good on paper in Sacramento, but to the everyman city employee worker out there, it doesn't make sense. So unless you can build something reasonable for reasonable working class people, I'm not buying it. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thomas Sennert, 114 Edgewood Drive. Edgewood is a parallel street to Loma Alta. Mayor Sanchez, members of the council, my major concern is conformity to the area. It's very the three-story, the architecture, apart from the safety concerns that have been voiced, and the street parking and whatever it might be along that line, the area has signs throughout, a couple monuments that say historic Loma Alta neighborhood. Well, this does not conform to historic Loma Alta. Nice looking units, and the size and everything else, the 3,200 square feet, car parking and so on. I think the lots are a little small personally for me, but it just not conform to the area. And so if we are going to have a community, it needs to conform to that community. That's my concern.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone else? Is there, on this item, by the way? Come on down.
Hi, my name is Sean Settles. I lived on Crouch Street for 30 years. I just want to get on the record that the planning, part of the planning department's compromises, they said the height requirement was going to be 30.5 feet, and the retaining wall was going to be 8 feet, or the grade was going to be 8 feet below Crouch Street. That was what you said. That'll be a 22.5 feet above Crouch Street, correct? Maximum height, that's 22.5 feet.
Yeah, your
above.
question will be answered afterwards.
Okay, I just want to get that on the record.
Please make the note of the question.
Yeah, I just don't have a lot of time here, so. Also, the traffic, there's a giant development, apartment complex going on the bottom of Crouch Street at Oceanside Boulevard. It's huge. And that is low income, or supposedly. And so the traffic from that.
Ocean Creek.
Yeah, it's going to be big. And Oceanside Boulevard, there's no plans to widen Oceanside Boulevard, is there?
No. No.
Okay, we've got a lot
ahead.
of traffic on Oceanside Boulevard, so we've got this and that and other things coming along. And I just think the planning department needs to do a little more planning and less capitulating, in my opinion. Also, Oceanside is the second or third largest city in San Diego.
Third. But go ahead, keep talking.
So we're third largest in San Diego. So Del Mar has fought the state and won a judgment against SB 9, and they're a lot smaller than Oceanside. So we can stand up to the state. They can't bully us around. We're the third largest city in San Diego, so we should be able to stand up to them and fight for the people of Oceanside instead of just capitulating to the state. That's my opinion. I just think that this thing doesn't fit. I've lived there for a long time. Nobody wants it. Nobody that has lived there for a long time wants it. And I just don't think we need to make Oceanside one big homogeneous, massive, high-density housing. We don't have the infrastructure for it. Oceanside Boulevard's already backed up all the time. We've got all the commercial traffic coming from the cement mixers and the people down in the industry down in Oceanside Boulevard. We don't need extra traffic here. It's just too much. We have to have a little foresight and kind of plan on what we're doing here. That's all.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, sir, yes. Please state your name, and then you've got 3 minutes.
So my name is Donald Evans. I'm a resident of Oceanside. I won't be long. I'm just going to say, sir, Mr. Developer, my great-grandparents have owned property here, my grandparents, my parents, my uncles. And the wonderful thing about this city is that how people like this, we come together, and we rally and we're invested in our, in our city, in our neighborhood. So I would implore you just to have a sit down with the neighborhood that you're going to develop, plan it, please, okay? Because they're really concerned, and that's what makes the city great, just that. So you owe it to them. Please, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on this item? I see no one else rising. I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the public. Yes, close this portion of the public hearing. And we do have rebuttal for Mr. Ledutko, who is the appellant. And you have 7 minutes. What was it? 7:56.
Thank you again. You might be wondering why I keep bringing up the topic of fire. Can Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Here's why. You know what tomorrow is? August the 8th? Marks a very solemn anniversary. 1 year since a deadly and destructive fire on the city of Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii. Over 100 people perished and 3,000 structures were destroyed as a result of a wildfire caused by downed power lines combined with dry vegetation and high wind. Does that remind you of anything? That event really motivated me to expose the deficiencies and concerns with respect to this project. There are remarkable similarities between Oceanside and Lahaina. Don't think for 1 second that what happened there won't happen here. Does anyone even remember the catastrophic fires we had in our county in 2003, 2007, and 2017? Finally, let's go to something positive, changing gears. I recently read that our city has provided financing options to some developers of affordable housing projects here. I commend that. I believe the only way to make housing affordable in our state is collaboration between the public and private sectors. I have another suggestion that might help, at least with respect to smaller infill projects like this one. That is, when a land parcel, just for example, 5 acres or less, goes on the market for the city to purchase it. Then, as the owner, the city controls the parameters, and you can have input from the neighborhood. You won't need waivers of development standards, and you can partner with local talented architects, builders, and tradespeople to design and build as many affordable houses as warranted. The city could then recoup each and all expenditures and costs upon sale of the affordable home. For example, if the city purchased this property, you could comfortably put 6 homes on it and make them all affordable without waiving any safety standards. That's a 600% increase. Who knows, it may even work for larger projects. The city wins, the neighborhoods win, local builders and trades win, qualifying buyers win, all at no cost to the taxpayer. That would even make Sacramento happy. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to staff. There were a couple of questions there.
Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, I'll take this time to confirm that there are no fire safety standards being waived for this project. I didn't hear a ton of actual questions. There was one about the height of the structure being proposed at 30.5 feet. If it is inset 8 to 10 feet below Crouch Street, that does come out to about 22.5 feet. But it's still a 30.5-foot structure. It just depends on where you're standing. I'll also clarify, there were some misconceptions about the unit needing to be for sale. If it's going to be rented, the developer has the option to have it be a for sale development or a for rent subdivision. And the only restriction is that the affordable unit has to be the same. So if it's a for sale product, the affordable unit must be for sale. And if it's a for rent product, the unit must be for rent.
Thank you. And I believe there was a question from Mr. Knott regarding can the council prohibit ADUs as a condition?
Madam Mayor, council members, so it'd be illegal to prohibit ADUs. State law would prohibit that. So we could not add a condition. restricting
Right.
ADUs.
You can't stop a conversion of a garage to an ADU.
That's correct.
All right.
Madam Mayor, I would also like to add, just for the record, that this project, as all new homes would be, is conditioned for all the new homes to be sprinkled. So they all have fire sprinklers to help in the case of an emergency. So that should just be noted for the record.
All right.
Can I add one point?
Yes.
There was some testimony from the appellant in the beginning that the developer obtained a waiver of the street grade requirement after your January 10th public hearing. That is not true. That approval from the city engineer occurred before your January 10th public hearing, and conditions of approval have been added to that in the resolution. That's before you tonight.
Okay, thank you. All right, to the council. We have Councilmember Robinson wishing to speak. Mr. Councilmember Robinson.
Thank you. I'm going to go pretty quick on this just because the time will go fast. For the record, I wanted to get this on. On August 6th, council received, the city and council received a copy of a letter from the Cal Housing Defense Fund. And I'm not going to read the entire thing, but there are parts I'm going to read. I would encourage you, if you want to know about the Cal Housing Defense Fund, go to their website, calhdf.org. One of the things you will notice is the cities that have challenged state law, and they'll list their successes. And there's a number of cities who have tried to fight the state laws on building and the things that we've talked about tonight, and they have not been successful. They have actually lost their court cases, and I'll leave it up to the city attorney to talk about if we should want to, about what the penalties are and things like that if we were to challenge these in court. But let me just take some segments out of this letter. Dear Oceanside City Council, the California Housing Defense Fund submits this letter to remind the council of its obligation to abide by all relevant state laws when evaluating the 13-unit housing development project, Loma Alta Terrace, which includes one very low-income unit. Again, I'm skipping through the letter. The Housing Accountability Act provides the project legal protections. It requires approval of zoning and general plan compliant housing development projects unless findings can be made regarding specific objective written health and safety hazards. The Housing Accountability Act also bars cities from imposing conditions on the approval of such projects that would reduce the project's density unless, again, such written findings are made. Going over to a couple paragraphs later, Cal HDF also writes to emphasize that the density bonus laws offers the proposed development certain protections. The council must respect these protections in addition to granting the increase in residential units allowed by the density bonus law. The council must not deny the project the proposed concessions and waivers with respect to lot area, lot width, lot depth, width, ratios, setbacks, wall height, landscaping, and utility undergrounding unless it makes written findings as required by government code, blah, 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 that the waivers would have specific adverse impact upon health or safety for which there is no feasible method to satisfactorily mitigate or avoid the specific impact, adverse impact. And then the last thing I'll read from the letter is, finally, the project is exempt from state environmental review under Class 32 CEQA categorical exemption, infill development projects, and it cites all this stuff. So I think since my time on council, this is probably the third such letter we've received, maybe more. I don't remember exactly, but so there is. Take this letter for what you want, and people talk about, well, we can fight and stand up to the state and all this. Well, the track record of this group is pretty good in their defense of the laws when cities go up against them. Just one final quick point, and I want to make this about development in general. Local control is important, and when you go to the HDF's website, you'll see, if you look around, there's a couple things you'll see. One, you'll see the pictures of the governor of this state supporting them, encouraging them in what they're doing and the work that they do. And the other thing, you can find a guide to ending single-family zoning. And it's a here's the ending bullet points to their guide. Limit local discretion, guarantee buildable area for every lot, create a permitting process that is clear, simple, and fast, mandate only objective development standards, don't forget about fees, eliminate or limit parking requirements, monitor and enforce local compliance. So if you want to stop these kind of developments and you don't like the density bonus laws, it really starts with us getting local control back here in the city, because the idea that we stand up to the state, in my view right now, is a losing proposition. And so I'll just end with that. But I would encourage everybody to think about who's running the state.
All right, so it is to the council. Do we have any other council members wishing to speak? Councilmember Weiss?
So several members of the public, and thank you all for coming out again, raised the issue about the affordability of the units. And I just want to highlight and put on the record that as of today, and it could change obviously as things change going forward, that very low income unit that they are proposing to provide on site, as of today, the maximum sales price would be $115,700. That's what they would have to sell that very low income unit for. So for example, Mrs. Thornton's daughter that's looking for a place to live, honestly, our entry level librarians, planners, engineers, that's going to be the way that they would get into housing in California at this point. And I agree that this project is out of character with the neighborhood, but having been through this, that is not a reason for us to, at this point in time, to say no. So I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Councilmember Joyce?
I also want to thank everybody for coming out. Thank you for the clarification on if the homes that are in the development are sold, and the affordable unit also must be sold, so it's the same as the rest. I would also like to point out that density bonus legislation is bipartisan, so while there might be a picture of the highest elected official in our state, it's a bipartisan game that's been played. As you've heard, that we've had some frustration with this process, especially with the lack of leverage that we have to make developments better and more accountable to the neighbors around it. We do have a housing crisis, and we also have a community to have a conversation about what's the fine line between building what we need and also making sure that everybody's quality of life remains at the level that they bought into. So I hear you asking for a fight, but this isn't SB 9. This fight was fought and lost by San Diego in 2022, Banker Hill decision, and in LA in 2021. I don't, from everything that I understand, I don't want to throw our local revenue away trying to fight something that I know is not going to happen. So I share some frustration, and I hope that we can move better in the future.
Deputy Mayor Keim?
I also hear, and I want to thank the residents coming out and those that met with me. I hear a lot about other cities fighting. So Huntington Beach is one of those. And so there's reporting earlier this year in May, they fought and pushed back against state housing laws, refusing to move forward with their state mandated housing plan. So it's they had a year of litigation. And according to a new judge, Huntington violated the state housing laws. So California Attorney General Rob Bonta, as an elected official, said in a news release in May that Surf City is not above the law, adding that the ruling is a warning to other cities not to challenge the state's housing mandates. Local governments up and down our state, as a quote, should take notice. We're facing a housing crisis of epic proportions. My office will continue to act with great urgency, working with cities and counties that won't be part of the solution, holding others accountable. So I just want residents to know what our city's facing and trying to push back against local control, and we do, but it is a massive challenge.
Okay, there is no motion. Councilmember Weiss?
As much as I wouldn't like to, I'll move approval of staff recommendation.
We'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 4-1. Sanchez, no.
Thank you. Going back to the items not on the agenda, public comments on items not on the agenda. Nathan? Okay, before I do that, I want to thank everyone for being here again. Thank you for meeting with me, and I did get the message very, very clearly that you want us to fight this. Thank you very much.
Are we opening that back up for more comments?
No.
Because I want to know what the reason is for denial. If we're going to keep talking about the issue, let's fight it. Give us a reason tonight, Mayor, and I will support you. If
You're
you have
out of order.
No.
You're
If
out
you
of
have
order.
If you
You
have
are out of-
a written
I've
safety
already
standard,
called
I will support you,
Nathan.
Mayor. I want to hear what our legal
Thank
reason
you.
is to deny this project. What you all just saw was politics at its worst tonight.
Deny these people a chance for us to fight.
I'm ready to hear it. If we have a reason, please tell me. I think one thing as politicians is we need to be honest with our residents.
There's no other item pending right now. We've got, of course, if you want to speak to the person who's speaking now, is it Nathan? You could,
Ready?
ask me to recognize you after he speaks.
I hope
Yes,
everyone here
Nathan.
tonight saw what happened.
Thank you very
Thank you very much for coming.
My name is Nathan. I live at 470 Stony Point Way. I'm a disabled vet. I put my life and limbs on the line for a government of, for, and by the people. We are not a government of, for, and by the people. And I want to show you why we will probably never, if we don't believe this.
Did it for art, Mr. President. Secondly, we're in a situation where and you guys did it for our the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. Congratulations. Oh my goodness. Secondly, we're in a situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. Congratulations.
I'm going to quote some of our founding fathers. People say we're a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. A democracy, and I'm going to paraphrase Benjamin Franklin on this, democracy is a pack of wolves voting on what to have for lunch. There's a pack of wolves and a bunch of lambs, sheep voting on what to have for lunch, okay? And I'm going to say, people are talking about amending our Constitution with term limits. I'm going to quote Thomas Jefferson. Those who choose to govern after a number of years of governing must be incapable of re-election or appointment to any government office that will affect the people's liberties and freedoms until they've spent a number of years living as the government, not the governors. We should amend our Constitution and state and local to the principles of rotation. And this does not only include elected officials, the bureaucracy, all of them seem to be out of control. And remember, what I just showed you was not taken out of context. All one has to do is look at what's going on. I don't care if you like Trump, hate Trump, or Democrat or Republican. These people do not want us to learn how to be our government. If we amend our constitutions with the principles of rotation, over time, we can teach ourselves and our children's children
Thank you,
how
sir.
to be our government. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, if I
Wendy
could-
Bravo?
Can I just do a quick personal point of personal privilege?
Yes. Yes,
I just
Councilor Jones.
want to say really briefly,
Just wait, Wendy.
our elections are the fundamental base of our current social way of life. The constant undermining of that institution in our country is a problem. And so just make sure that if you're listening, you check your sources and do your full research, because it's really important that we're paying close attention, because information can be deep faked or all kinds of different ways. So just make sure you check your sources from reliable sources, and have real serious conversations about these things, because the consequences of undermining our electoral process are real, and they don't go backwards, they go one way.
Thank you. Wendy Bravo, followed by Jimmy Knott.
Have I got this, Mike? Okay, thank you. I wrote a letter to Cunningham and members of the city council and Jonathan Borrego, city manager, and this pertains to the visual and sustainable resources 5.2 in open space, vegetation, and wildlife, and among a number of comments that I made about the DEIR current plan update. In it, I exhort the planning division to include a section called aesthetics, as is part of the general plan at this time, in that it lists in particular sites that are of a great scenic beauty, a scenic route, and the term vista is used as well. I noted that in looking over this portion, that no mention of the term vista, as you see here, as you would see in the 131-acre hillsides and valleys of the Prince of Peace Abbey. So you have, to extent, sections of Oceanside's aesthetics that should be included in the plan. It's great to have infill development pocket parks and opportunities for enjoying planted areas, but we have extant right now, a great treasure, which flanks the 76, welcoming tourists, visitors alike, and is part of our children's heritage. So I exhort for that. And we have seen where developments have been, a development called the Villas has been set down in front of the mission to obstruct. We need to think ahead. We need to really think ahead in this plan. And so I hope that will, help with doing that. I wanted to add a couple more things that should be looked at. There's no mention of mobile home communities' needs in terms of the hazards and risks there. In particular, our fragile senior population, the needy and the poor, should there be a displacement due to park conversions and that sort of thing. And also to mention the 76 in safety, being that there's going to be a lot of side traffic coming from the nearby suburb areas into the area, we'll say, where the Eddie Jones project is planned. There's going to be a great increase in semi-trucks. All of these things need to be thought out and addressed. Why isn't the 76 factored into residents' communities and tourist experience as a beautifying greeting rather than a nightmare, nor were issues of homelessness, et cetera? Please insert an index.
Thank you, Ms. Bravo.
Please have section titles, and also improve your outreach. We didn't reach anybody that didn't have digital media at their
Thank you very
fingertips.
much. Thank you. Mr. Knott, followed by Stephen Rowe. Thank you.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Cherry Lane. I have an answer for you from this last item. You do have power. You're part of the League of Cities. Now, the League of Cities has a legal fund. The League of Cities also has a member called Oceanside. it has a representative from this council. Although not listed into our agenda, it used to be where all the members used to take and have all their different committees that they would sit on be listed onto the agenda, but it's not there anymore. We don't know who or what you do. But, you know, that's part of our city's website now. You know, according to the website that we have now, it's still June. Did you know that? It's not August. I went there today, and I tried to access the city council's agenda, and it's June. It's not August. I was surprised when I came here tonight. You had different material that you covered. I even submitted an item to the city clerk, and I wasn't allowed to speak because it wasn't on the item. So I think that what we need to do is revisit the city's website. And we need to look at the city's League of Cities as well, because they could file a simple federal lawsuit for cities' rights versus state rights and federal court. And if it loses in federal court, we can appeal it to the Supreme Court underneath certain provisions. Now, if the city attorney wanted to weigh in on this, he's a professional. But there are other attorneys, well, that can weigh in as they want to. Because attorneys have the right to disagree with one another. And I'm sure that you could take and get consultants to come in and debate this back and forth. But you do have that power. Use it.
Thank you very much. Next, Mr. Rowe, Stephen Rowe, followed by the organized presentation with Skip Hammond. Mr. Rowe?
Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council, thank you so much for giving me some time to speak on something that wasn't on the agenda. I'm going to be speaking about the Olive Park Apartments. They're 282 units on 6 acres. I want to bring up, main thing is the safety of the area. Anyone who's been in the, I know Council Member Rick Robinson used to be a fire chief. Appreciate your service in the fire department. On that parcel of property, there was a fire that actually they had to call out CAL FIRE to put the fire out. To be able to get out of this proposed parcel of apartments, there's going to be 282, you do the math, you know, minimum of 3 people per unit. That's 3 cars per, that's 800 and something more additional cars coming out onto onto College Boulevard without an additional egress out of that property. It's going to be disastrous. If there was a fire on that parcel, you couldn't get out. We can't even with the proposed changes of the light, of putting which is really great, so great to think that they're going to add an arrow that you could turn on to College, but that's going to additionally add time, of course. And if anybody knows who's traveled College and Oceanside Boulevard and Olive coming down into College, it's just ridiculous. It's just a nightmare. And I just wanted to point out the safety of not having planned a separate egress out of that property, that proposed property. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now, I understand we have an organized presentation by Skip Hammond. To have an organized presentation, you need to name 3 other people, and they need to and they need to stay during the entire presentation. They can't walk away. So could you please name them?
Jackie, Susan Kennedy, Susan Schroeder, and I'm probably mispronouncing your last name, Machinsky? Machinsky, here you go, thank you. They
Just
were all
need
here.
3 other, right? It's 4
No,
altogether?
they're here.
Okay, great. All right, so that's a 10-minute
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Skip Hammond. My colleagues and I live in San Diego County, and we are volunteers with the United Sovereign Americans. We are not spokespersons.
You don't live in Oceanside, then?
I live in Carlsbad, and we live throughout the county.
All right.
And I've lived in Carlsbad and North County for over 40 years. United Sovereign Americans is a nationwide organization with thousands of active volunteers in over 20 states. Today we come to you as concerned citizens sharing alarming information about our state's voter roll database. Research of the state's voter database was done through hundreds of hours of research conducted by highly qualified and credentialed data teams. An analysis of the 2022 election research by highly qualified data teams using only official data provided by California election officials indicates serious issues with compliance of federal law. We're here to present to you and the public the results of aforementioned analysis showing the votes cast, counted, and certified may not be all valid and accurate under the Constitution and under the law. We're not here to cast any blame or aspersions on any elected official. We do not suggest that any candidate in any race have wrongly won or lost their races, nor do we advocate for the overturning or rerunning of any past election. Tonight, we will present you with a resolution demanding an end to the inaccuracy and uncertainty plaguing our elections, along with a summary of our findings and the laws that apply. Though you bear no direct responsibility for anything in the electoral process, we come to you, our closest elected representatives, for support and action. We're asking you that you listen to the resolution and take the necessity for a valid election seriously by adding the resolution to your next meeting agenda. Resolution for a legally valid 2024 general election. Whereas it is a recognized civil right in the United States for every citizen to have a free and fair election. Whereas it is the duty of our election officials to guarantee our elections are accurate and free from distortion or manipulation. And whereas our constitutional system of representative government only works when the following 4 tenets of an election are upheld. Number 1, the voter rolls must be accurate. National Voter Registration Act of 1993. Votes counted must be from eligible voters. U.S. Constitution, 14th Amendment, Section 2. The number of votes counted must equal the number of voters who voted. Number 4, there can be no more than 1 in 125,000 ballots in error by the voting system. Help America Votes Act. Whereas the analysis of the California 2022 general election has uncovered evidence of massive inaccuracies that appear to violate both federal and state laws, including 5,886,198 ineligible or uncertain registration violations found within the California State Voter Roll database, 2,776,939 votes cast by ineligible or uncertain registrations, 123,785 more votes counted than voters who voted. No one knows who cast them. 2,776,849 apparent voting violation in excess of the legal standard of system accuracy for a valid federal election. The maximum allowable system errors for the 2022 general election was 90. Again, California had approximately 2.8 million apparent voting violations. Certification, as defined by law, is an attestation of accuracy and compliance. The certification of the 2022 election appears to have been fraudulent and illegal. Whereas these findings trample legal accuracy requirements of the voting system during a federal election. Whereas the intent of the voters must be known factually before certification can be lawfully conducted. Whereas the 2022 general election appears to have been invalid, depriving us of the guaranteed protection of our natural rights under a government duly and provably chosen by us, the American people, resulting in incalculable damage to our families, our way of life, and the fabric of these United States. Therefore, we call upon our representatives to provide relief to the people and the assurance of domestic tranquility by joining us in demanding a valid 2024 general election that upholds these existing laws and equitable principles of law. Number one, proof of citizenship, identity, and eligibility required to vote and register, not anonymous attestation. Number two, voter rolls certified, accurate, and available for public review and challenge 30 days before the start of early voting. Voters added after that date must bring proof of citizenship, identity, and an address to a qualified official at each polling place. Number three, hand-marked secure ballots similar to currency, where imaging technology is used for tabulation. The security features must be verifiable in the ballot image. Number four, systems, machines, security measures, infrastructures, and conduct are required to be compliant with federal law for fraud prevention regarding risk assessment, certification, testing, and implementation. And number five, adjudication must be signed off by party, candidate, and trained citizens, witness after being given full and effective observation rights. Candidates and trained citizens must be allowed immediate access to ballots, ballot images, and cast vote records. Number six, ballots, regardless of entry source, the election operation and systems must maintain end-to-end chain of custody from voter to vote count to final canvass, including auditability and witness transferred with paper record. Number seven, National Institute of Standards and Technology compliant randomized statistical valid end-to-end audit with a 95% confidence level of all elections pursuant to the 14th Amendment, Section 2 must be performed. These audits are to be conducted by qualified, insured, and bonded security, forensic, or financial auditors, not personnel from within the election system. The reconciliation will include the vote count, real physical ballots, adjudication, cast vote records, ballot count, qualified voter count, custody transfer, and all other paper and electronic systems, including log. Number eight, if the total of the unique variances above is more than 10% of the margin of victory, a new election must be held in the state for those candidates affected unless the issues can be provably corrected by a manual hand recount and a full review of the record. Number nine, the waiver of these requirements is not allowed. Only end-to-end system compliance from registration through certification can guarantee the intent of the people is actually recorded. Be it resolved that the City of Oceanside council members stand in support with the concerns and remedies presented here. We implore that the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, California legislature, federal legislatures, law enforcement, federal and state prosecutors, judges, and both Secretary of State and county registrars or voters to cooperate and fulfill these firm requests of the people. So that ends the resolution, and what you've heard tonight is a powerful written resolution outlining massive inaccuracies in our 2022 election from registration through certification. The resolution delineates meaningful remedies that will proactively protect the validity of the 2024 general election for all Americans. The written copy cites many U.S. Supreme Court precedents and federal and constitutional mandates that support the need for such action. Large numbers of Californians have questions about the trustworthiness of our elections. Official data show that these concerns are valid, and the law says resolving them is essential in securing our liberty. The cost for not fixing the enumerated problems is immeasurable. So we urge you to put this resolution on an agenda for the next city council meeting where you can vote to join us in support of fair, honest, and valid election. The United Sovereign Americans website showcases our initiatives nationwide and features some extremely informative videos. We encourage you to visit uniteforfreedom.com and learn more about our organization and our goals to restore valid elections throughout our country. That's unite4freedom.com. One more time, unite4freedom.com. And thank you very much for your time.
Okay, next, like to call public communications on with advance written request to reserve time. That's item number 15, beginning with Diane Dillon. Welcome, Ms. Dillon.
Honorable Mayor Sanchez and esteemed council members.
Thank you. You do get 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So I am Diane Dillon. I represent the I am the Executive Director of Western Council of Engineers, and I represent your engineers, your planners, and landscape architect. I have a few that are joining me today. And I wanted to speak to you today because the city is equating certificates with licensed engineers. And, you know, that is very different. And I kind of want to explain what it takes to become a professional engineer in the state of California. So, first of all, you have to have a Bachelor's of Science degree. Then you have to have a live scan fingerprinting because it is life and death that we deal with every day here. We have to pass the fundamentals of engineering exam, and then after 3 years after completion with that, you have to work under a licensed PE, professional engineer. And after that time, you may apply to take the license to become an engineer in training. So you get the degree, and most people don't come out of college after 4 years. It takes at least 5 years to come out with a civil engineering degree. So you've got the degree, then you have to pass the fundamentals of engineering exam. Then you have to work under a licensed engineer to apply to get the engineer in training exam. After that, it's 2 years, again, working under a professional engineer to apply to take the exam to be a professional engineer. After that, then 2 years later, you have to you have to take the seismic principal exam, take the engineering survey exam, and take the traffic engineering exam. After obtaining the PE, you individual must work an additional 3 years under a licensed geotechnical engineer or a structural engineer to apply for that exam. And that's, you know, after that, then you have to actually take the exam and pass. So it takes years and years and years to complete this work. And I will tell you what it takes to obtain a certificate as an applicator. And this is what the city is equating. All of that education and exams. You have to be 18 years old with an ID. You have to read the study material with the test questions, and at the end of the chapter, pass the test with 70%. So you can see there's a huge difference between the licensure and the certificate. So to us, it doesn't equate at all. So the engineers here, they are the backbone of the city. They have everything to do with the structures and the infrastructure here. And anytime anything goes wrong, I can guarantee you the first call is to an engineer to try to solve the problem. They deal with drainage, water, traffic. So if there's a problem with the traffic flow, you're calling the engineer to fix it. I know that we don't get the attention or the recognition. Our names aren't on the plaques, on the buildings that we work on, that we put our heart and soul into. We work strange hours, because sometimes the work has to be done at night, not to impact the traffic and everything. I had some other things. I understand I'm coming down to the wire, but these people work so hard for you, and I just want to ask the council to reconsider the items in the next proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is Ken Layton.
Today, we launched the first weekly podcast all about Oceanside, the Big Buccaneer channel. It's at www.osidebbbc.com. It's campaign season, and that means fraud is rampant. Just last week, Treasurer Victor Roy followed his signatures on official city correspondence with MBA, meaning he got his mail order MBA in the mail from Reverend Moon University or wherever the hell it is. But what's worse is he also now adds CFA, which indicates he is a member of the Chartered Financial Analyst Institute, an elite respected society which told me he is, in fact, not a member of the CIA. With Victor Roy, the fraud gusher never stops. And is it campaign season that made our mayor, Sanchez, completely flip the script and take money from the short-term rental antichrist hated by hundreds of homeowners, David Fishbach? Did you, Mayor Sanchez, cross over to the dark side for a measly $500 in Fishbach blood money? And what's up with you intervening on behalf of Fishbach regarding a city-issued stop work order at 1721 South Pacific? What exactly do you stand for now, Mayor Sanchez? And can someone explain the scam of the Oceanside Police Officers Association, the OPOA, which is in fact only a labor union? The OPOA made its political endorsements last October, 10 months before the cutoff for all candidates to file. In my district, they endorsed a woman no one has even ever heard of. Meanwhile, they didn't even interview Jimmy Figueroa, who is a member of the Police and Fire Commission, homegrown guy, and a member of a special commission appointed by the chief. Mr. Figueroa has been approached by rank and file members who come up and tell him, hey, Jimmy, they never even contacted us. They don't speak for us. We're with you. Meanwhile, the OPOA political PAC guys, whoever they are, gave $4,000 to the Chamber of Commerce PAC so they can all pool their money for backroom created hit pieces. Bottom line, the OPOA does not speak for the rank and file, yet their endorsement wrongly projects to the people of Oceanside that the whole force is behind this OPOA endorsement. This is slimy, and in my opinion, does not represent the ethics of the good men and women of the OPD rank and file. Even though these opinions are supported by facts, it is still opinion. It is still an opinion, which is only a fraction of the new weekly podcast, osidebbbc.com. It's the Big Buccaneer channel, and we have news, interviews with people who matter, and scoop about restaurants, trends, and retro Oceanside. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Layton. So I guess, Kenny, I will take a point of personal privilege since I've known you since high school, and I think this time you flipped your wig. So anyway, 1721 South Pacific, you can have a seat. Thank you. 1721 South Pacific, I believe is Mr. Mudge's house, who lives in Los Angeles. It is not a Fishbach home. And hopefully you've known me for a very long time. I don't take money from big corporations like, $40,000 from, a family, just, by my opponent here. I did not know that I got a check from Fishbach for $500. That's not the name that the check was, a check was written to. I actually am my own treasurer, so I will look into that. But I have fought for this community. I am a true Oceansider, generational, and I have never, ever compromised my principles. Thank you very much. All right, next is item number 18, which is staff recommendation that the City Council adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 34, Article 2, Sections 34.6.5 and 34.616B of the Oceanside City Code, extending the temporary 1/2 cent general local transaction and use tax for an additional 10 years while maintaining provisions for citizens' oversight and accountability. This is Measure X that is going to be placed on the ballot.
And we do have public on this.
Thank you. So let's go to public comments.
We have one speaker, Richard Newton.
Two quick points before I begin. I'd like to point out that we are a representative republic, like the other speaker said. The quote is, democracy is two wolves and a lamb voting on what's for dinner. Has been noted by James Madison, the father of the U.S. Constitution, and wrote extensively in the Federalist Papers that democracy is dangerous because what happens is it devolves into mob rule and anarchy, and then ultimately is then stabilized by dictatorship. The other point I'd like to make is that the Democrats have a supermajority in Sacramento. Eric Joyce, you mentioned that it was a bipartisan issue of micromanagement here. The Democrats hold 80% majorities in the legislature, veto-proof majorities. Bottom line, if you like what's coming out of Sacramento, vote Democrat. If you don't, vote Republican. Democrats own everything coming out of Sacramento. To my point, Mayor Sanchez, members of the council, and the public. At the last meeting, the extension of Proposition X taxation and the funding problems for city-owned parcels known as landscape maintenance districts were discussed as separate agenda items. Many of the maintenance districts are poorly maintained due to lack of funding, and this has led to the presence of overgrown shrubs and brush that are underwatered and dry. This is, of course, a fire hazard and therefore a threat to public safety. Fire prevention is, of course, a matter of public safety, and brush abatement is a fire prevention matter. So we can conclude that brush maintenance is a public safety issue. This is a fairly straightforward process of logical thinking to reach this conclusion. As a side note, I later learned that the city has no funding, zero, for tree maintenance in these maintenance districts, so these districts are overgrown mess and a tinderbox waiting to happen. Proposition X was sold to the public as a funding source for public safety items. At the last council meeting, council members discussed using Proposition X funds for sidewalk and road repairs and also for art programs for gay kids, among other projects. This seems to be a misappropriation of public funds because these programs are not public safety items, at least not without twisting your logic like a pretzel. Some of these Proposition X funds should be allocated to the task of adequately maintaining the landscape maintenance districts so these areas are no longer significant fire hazards. Furthermore, proper erosion control and prevention in these districts should also be a priority because landslides are also a threat to public safety and a drain on emergency services. Many areas are lacking adequate ground cover. I fail to see how sidewalk and road repairs or art programs for select few are considered to be a proper use of public safety funds, while fire prevention and erosion control are not. I'm here tonight to call attention to this oversight and to ask the council to make the landscape maintenance district funding a public safety priority and make maintenance for these districts a priority of Proposition X funds for the common good of all Oceanside residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and, to the council, I'll go ahead and move adoption for item number 18. Who was first?
Title.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Let's title.
This is the second read of an ordinance of the City of Oceanside amending Chapter 34 at Article 2, Sections 34.6.5 and 34.6.16B of the Oceanside City Code, extending the temporary 1/2 cent general transactions and use tax for an additional 10 years while maintaining provisions for citizens' oversight and accountability. I'll note for the record, we've already adopted the resolution, putting them at your second meeting in June, transmitting the ballot question to the Registrar of Voters, and this ordinance, of course, does not become effective until majority voter approval.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Okay, near the ending here. General council member comments. Councilmember Robinson.
Thank you. Just a couple things that happened this week, or yeah, I guess mostly this week. On one, I just want to start off with was on August 2nd, I went out to Camp Pendleton for the retirement of Colonel Dan Whitley. After, I might be adding a year to his service here, 29 years as a Marine. If you don't know, or many of you probably seen Colonel Whitley around the city. He does a lot of things. He's involved in a lot of activities, and it was a great retirement ceremony, and I just want to wish him well in his retirement. But he's going to be around. He's a resident of the city. He's going to be around, and he's going to be doing a lot of activities here in the city, and many of our groups, the Veterans Center of North County, particularly. And I want to compliment our OPD for their National Night Out event yesterday, and it was a lot of fun, and it was great seeing the chief get in the water tank. That was cool. Yeah.
I missed that.
And then today I had a chance to go to Maricosta College for their Maricosta PD swearing in and badging ceremony. And although she's been in the position for a while, former OPD Lieutenant Val Sadat was formally sworn in as their chief. And I think just it's remarkable to mention that what they said was she's the first African-American female police chief in San Diego County, I believe is what they said. So I wanted to congratulate her on that and all the dedicated professionals at Maricosta PD. The last item I want to talk about, I don't really take a lot of joy in, but I'm going to, Mayor Sanchez, I know we've had differences in how we vote and things, but I have to say that tonight what I saw with the Loma Alta project, and you're entitled to vote any way you want without explaining why, but to sit quietly while we discuss that project and then you vote no without having a reason for it, I find really disingenuous. I even offered to change my vote. If you could give us a tangible reason that we could defend that project, I would change my vote. Basically, you cheated the Loma Alta folks out of their day in court, I believe, if you really believe that no vote was appropriate. And when the project's all built and done, I hope you have the decency not to show up to some ribbon cutting and talk about how wonderful the project is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Joyce.
So I had a couple of resident engagement activities over the last couple of weeks, which were really highly attended and focused a lot on different types of developments that are coming to our communities. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that showed up to those. We had some really dynamic discussions that ranged all different types of topics, but it was really good to actually sit down and have in-depth conversations together and agree to disagree where we had to. We also had an event that, as Councilmember Robinson mentioned earlier, was about the general plan update to help folks understand what's coming down the pipe. There was a ton of interest. It was because we were in the other community rooms at the Mission Branch Library. We were real packed in together, but tons of interest, but not a ton of information. So folks weren't coming to the table really understanding how to digest the document. If you do have time to get into the document, I would suggest that you find the section that you're looking for, and then look at the actions at the back of those sections, because those are really where staff is going to be working over the next couple of years to implement the plan. And if you have any questions with that, feel free to reach out to our office, or I'm sure any of the other offices will be happy to take you on. I also had the pleasure of sitting at the NCTD board meeting as the alternate in place during July, and there was a big conversation about the rail realignment project. And so that's something to be aware of with the coaster and Amtrak and the Lausanne corridor. The rail needs to be realigned away from the beach, essentially due to erosion, and they're determining where's the best path. As you can imagine, this is in the Del Mar, Solana Beach area, so there's lots of heated conversation between those two cities, but we are a major stakeholder in that conversation. So I was sure to make sure that they recognize that as they're battling it out between themselves, they don't forget that the rest of us use this to get to work and other really essential functions for our lives. So with that, thank you guys.
Thank you, OPD. Great National Night Out. I've been involved with it, for 20 years at the neighborhood level. It's always been a fantastic, and it was about improving community police relations. And really for the neighborhoods that have been involved in the past, it was about taking back their neighborhoods. And that's why it's at night, the whole idea about, doing this even at night when it's a time when you're not as safe in some of these neighborhoods. So great job. I unfortunately missed the chief in the dunk tank, so I must have been at the wrong place at that time. I want to congratulate Terry's Cafe on their reopening because they did close for a bit because of kitchen fire. And also I want to congratulate Rubio's. It's reopening this coming Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, after their fire. I know that was, I actually thought they weren't going to reopen. So, but anyway, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting to August 21st. Thank you very much.